across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning to you. It is Saturday, the 22nd of August. This is Weekend Breakfast with me, Charlie Rowley, here at Talk, the home of common sense. And on this fantastic Saturday, I can see the sun rising up across the great city of London. We'll be talking about all the top stories across the national newspapers and some in between. Let me know your thoughts. 0344 499 1000. I want to hear from you throughout the next 4 hours. As I say, I'll be taking you through all the top stories and the gossip with some brilliant guests, including Candice Hosworth, who joins me for the paper review, which we'll be coming to in just a second. But Saturday, the 22nd of August, would not be anything without you, the great Talk listener. So let me know what you think about all of the stories that we'll be covering today. 0344 499 1000. You can text the word Talk to 87222 or send us a message. Follow us on X at talkTV, followed by your message, and we'll endeavour to read out as many of those as we possibly can. This is the home of common sense. It's going to be a great Saturday. We've got a jam-packed show all the way through to 10 o'clock with news and gossip, as I say, right across the UK. So let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. So let's turn to those front pages of the morning of the national newspapers. We'll start with the Daily Mail. Harry, Elton and co will have to pay millions to the Mail. That's their High Court ruling that was dismissed by a judge, a privacy case brought by Harry, Elton John and many others that was completely dismissed by a judge. They've now got to pay up to about £35 million, but the demand to pay £9.5 million by next week. Well, let's hope that they've got the money for it. You'd have to do a few jobs, I think, to make that money in about a week. That's the front page of the Mail. The Times. Harry and celebrities could face £34 million bill. Again, going with that story about a High Court judge dismissing Harry's privacy claim. In the Daily Express. In France, we too are afraid of illegal migrants. A French mother claims that villagers are living in terror after illegal migrants moved in and set up another launch site for UK-bound small boats. But the French apparently are afraid of illegal migrants. Who knew? The Eye, weekend paper. High Court orders Prince Harry and celebrities to pay a huge legal bill. Following on from the Times and the Mail there. The Guardian goes with MPs have already accepted £400,000 worth of freebies this year. We'll be getting stuck into that story in just a minute. Will our MPs ever learn? The Sun newspaper, Meg in Richie crime romp. This is a story that Meghan Markle, as part of her return to the UK, it is alleged that she has got a role in a series called The Gentleman, which is a Netflix series led by Guy Ritchie, no less. We'll be talking about Harry and Meghan. I know, a story that gets everybody going one way or another, but we're talking about them a little bit later on. The Mirror continues with that story. Duchess and the Gentleman. The Duchess of Sussex is said to be in talks over a role in The Gentleman, following the bombshell announcement that she and Prince Harry are returning to the UK. It leads also on the Star. Meg's lock, stock and two moaning royals. So a lot of stories, a lot of coverage, I should say, on the front pages of Harry and Meghan. It is the gift that keeps on giving. The Telegraph going in a slightly different direction. Mandelson probe at risk of collapse. This is because the current investigation into Peter Mandelson, allegedly, when he was business secretary back in the day, giving government information to Jeffrey Epstein, the US are allegedly not going to release some of the files and information that could lead to a further investigation into Lord Mandelson. So we may see a collapse of that investigation. And the FT weekend. Fiscal worries mount for Burnham. Now, that's the only front page that talks about fiscal worries in the UK, talking about our economy. But that is the question that we're asking you, the great listener, this morning. What would you do if you were Chancellor? Because we've gone through those front pages, we've talked about those stories, but within all of these stories, we're talking about £1 billion a day, a staggering sum that is spent on benefits. That's giving Chancellor John Healey an absolute budget headache that'll be announced as recess comes to an end in just a few weeks' time. Well, recess coming to an end next week, but the budget will be announced in a few weeks' time. Does that mean that the Chancellor will have to raise taxes even more? That's your hard-working cash. People who here listening to talk, who work hard, play by the rules, do the right thing. There are alarm clock Brits Monday to Friday. It could be Saturday. Jobs that you all have that you're going to this morning. Well, £1 billion a day of your hard-working taxpayers' money is going on benefits. That's alongside another story that Andy Burnham and Ed Miliband plot £13 billion worth of foreign aid rises. That also needs the prospect of tax rises for millions of hardworking people across the UK. Do you want to see your taxes being paid on foreign aid? Do you want to see your taxes being paid on benefits? And it always comes in threes, doesn't it? The third story that we're going to be talking about that includes budgetary measures is freebies, fast fury, as migrants across the UK are offered £340 worth of days out at popular attractions for just £30. If there ever was an example of two-tier Britain in full swing, I think this hits the nail on the head. A family wanting to take their kids out for a summer attraction that might cost, collectively, all of the attractions that have been found, it would cost the family £340. That's if you're in the UK. But if you've come across on a small boat, if you're a migrant, if you're seeking asylum, even if we don't know who you are, well, you can go out just for 30 quid. Beggars belief. 0344 499 1000. Let me know, what would you do if you were the Chancellor? Are you prepared to raise taxes? Are you prepared for your hard-working cash to be spent on foreign aid, on days out for migrants, or for people on benefits? That's 0344 499 1000, or text the word talk to 87222, or you can follow us on X, just at talkTV, and I will absolutely read out your texts, voicemails, cross between the two there, and get your voice heard on the radio. Let's have a conversation. Looking forward to it all the way through to 10 a.m. But taking us through all of those stories and some this morning, I'm absolutely delighted at this early hour on a Saturday morning to be joined by Candice Holdsworth, political commentator, and much more than that. She's a friend of Talk. You did loads for Talk, didn't you, Candice?
Yes, yeah. I've been around a long time now.
Well, yes. I think I remember when we first sort of started out. You might have started a bit earlier than I did. I don't know.
Don't know. Yeah, sure,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, welcome. Thank you so much for getting up on a Saturday and joining me to talk about these top stories. Let's start then with that challenging one that's in the Mail and a few other stories. It's £1 billion a day. This is a staggering sum that is spent on benefits. That's giving Chancellor John Healey a bit of a headache when it comes to the budget that's on the cards. Talk us through this. What do you make of it?
Yeah, so this is a story in the Mail, though I think it's been covered all across the press and all the financial journalists have been covering it. John Healey, the new Chancellor, is going to be in an incredibly straitened financial position because there's a lot of things that they need to spend on, but they can't really borrow more and they can't really raise taxes because taxes are already at just a historic high, and the markets will not tolerate any borrowing. They're going to have to cut something, and I think a lot of what people point to most obviously is the benefits bill. If it's coming to £1 billion a day, it seems obvious, right? But will the backbenchers allow it? I don't know if they will. I mean, this is just within the DNA of Labour. And I think Andy Burnham has not signalled at all yet that he's willing to make any of these difficult cuts. We'll see when the budget is announced. Maybe we'll be surprised by it. I mean, maybe John Healey does have that sort of common sense. But the fact of the matter remains, Rachel Reeves has already raised taxes a lot. How much more can they raise without everyone just starting to say, no more, we're not going to pay any more in taxes?
Yeah, that's the big question, because as you say, look, the last Labour government, and I mean Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves, when she was in the Treasury, tried to cut the benefits bill by about £5 billion, I think it was, and the backbenchers basically said, no, we can't do it. We don't think that that's fair. So a small sum of £5 billion a year doesn't seem that much in comparison to the whole benefits bill if we're now learning that it costs about £1 billion a day. But does Andy Burnham have the now newfound authority? He seems to be announcing policies left, right and centre that include quite a fair bit of spending, if you don't mind me saying.
Yes.
Will he just overrule his backbenchers? Do you think he and John Healey have got the stomach to cut benefits?
I mean, John Healey seemed quite sensible to me, and he also seemed to understand the importance of raising defence spending, for instance. But I think quite far-sighted people said if you have an enormous majority like they have, the backbenchers are pretty much running the show. And even though they should be able to dictate to them, it actually ends up being the other way around, which is why a lot of people have said to Andy Burnham, seek your own mandate, because the right is very split, you'll benefit from it, and even if you have a smaller majority, actually, paradoxically, that can make governing easier.
Do you think there will be early general election?
I don't know. So, I mean, people are gossiping relentlessly about it on the political scene. Some people have said that, yes, the chances are a bit higher than maybe they were a few weeks ago. Andy Burnham could take a risk. He could. He is someone, like he did with the Makerfield by-election. He took a risk. He went for it. It paid off for him. It all depends. It depends what his appetite for risk is. Most pollsters, the good pollsters, have said you will never find more favourable circumstances than the ones you've got now. Having said that, you can't always dictate how an election goes. So, I mean, Theresa May was told, call an election, this is the best time, and then it all kind of backfired. So it all depends on your appetite for risk, I think.
I remember it well. Those halcyon days of 2017. Political stability, strong and stable government. We didn't quite get it. We've just got a message from Dave that says, "Morning, Charlie. I'm sick to death of tax rises. They should only be allowed to raise them when they have finished slashing waste and foreign aid." Now, Dave makes a good point there, doesn't he? That, you know, when governments spend too much, we've got now about £1 trillion worth of debt that we've got to pay down. So it's not just the deficit where we're spending more money, day-to-day spending, than what we've got coming in to HMRC. So we've got more outgoings than coming in, and that accumulates a debt of now, which is about £3 trillion. Slashing waste, no bad thing, and foreign aid. Now, foreign aid has been cut significantly through successive governments, but it's now looking like, if you believe some of the other stories that we're talking about, one in the Express, that Andy Burnham and Ed Miliband plot a £13 billion foreign aid spurge, taking it back to about 0.7% of GDP. Is that where you think the country really is at the minute, Candice?
I couldn't think of a worse thing to announce at this particular time. Like we've just discussed, when you've got taxes at a historic high, people are having to cut their own cloth in their own daily lives. And they look at government and say, well, you need to cut your cloth too. And I think for most people, foreign aid spending is right at the bottom of priorities. I think if you were to poll the public right now, they would say spend more on defence, they would say spend more on education, they would probably say spend more on healthcare. What they would not say increase spending on is foreign aid. I mean, that 0.7% of GDP target is one that was set by the UN, I think, years ago. And very few countries actually meet that target. It's totally fine to prioritise your national interest, especially in the times that we live in right now, where everyone is feeling the squeeze. Once again, though, I think that these are the Labour backbenchers who are pushing this. They have their own priorities, and I think it is one of the problems that the current Labour Party has, in my opinion. I think they're in an ideological echo chamber, and things like the foreign aid budget are a big priority for them, but I think for the rest of the population, it's just not.
So I remember back in the day when obviously David Cameron was Prime Minister and George Osborne was the Chancellor, and they first announced that the Tory party would be spending this 0.7% of GDP on international aid. Now, that was a sort of a move to get the Conservative Party into the centre ground, to make it electable again after 13 years of Tony Blair's Labour government, which seemed to be quite progressive, that was on the international stage. He got involved in a lot of international affairs. I think we know some for good, some didn't go particularly well for old Tony. So David Cameron and George Osborne moved the Tory party into that position to get them sort of electable again. And their view was that actually, in a world in which we are sort of still seeing growth, even though we've got to cut our cloth, we've got to cut public spending, just as you said, and that's what austerity was about under the Tories. It was also about spending that international money to prevent, then, the kind of crisis that we're seeing now. So if you spend more money abroad and help other countries sort out their own issues effectively, that will stop, for example, a migrant crisis of people fleeing those war-torn countries and coming into Europe. that subsequently was cut. That was the theory. That was cut over time because, you know, domestic pressures required more public spending in certain areas. We had COVID pandemic, for example. People like to forget about that. I know I certainly do, but we can't. And taxes went to an all-time high. So the international aid budget, I think, was cut from 0.7 to about 0.5 under Boris to then 0.3 under Keir Starmer. So Keir Starmer recognised also that international, welfare, as it were, international aid wasn't a top priority for Brits. But yet Andy Burnham now seems to think that he can put it back up.
Yeah, he's not reading the mood. Like you say, at that particular time, that was the thinking. But the mood shifts. The mood shifts over time, and a good politician is able to read that mood correctly. I think that the times that we live in, these very turbulent times, you see a lot of countries around the world prioritising their national interest. And I think it's absolutely fine for us to do that as well. I think the optics of this are very, very, very poor. Most people I know, so around my age, mid to late 30s, I'll keep it within that vague range.
You're not, are you?
Yes,
You're
can you
not.
believe it?
I'm shocked.
Yes, I mean, you know, I was born in the 1980s. I hate to admit it, but I was.
Were you really?
Yes, I was.
Good heavens.
So those of us with families and children...
I thought you were just collecting your A-levels last week.
Charlie, come on, all these compliments. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I was a teen mum. I had my first child at like 16. Yeah, so most of us are, I mean, we're living with an incredibly tight budget at the moment. So, I mean, I think for most people, they'll just think, absolutely not, this should be spent on people in this country, and they're right to say so.
Well, that's the question we're asking this morning. What would you do if you were the Chancellor of the Exchequer? Would you be prepared to raise more taxes? Are you a hard-working Brit? Are you part of the alarm clock Britons that work Monday to Friday, or even on a Saturday or a Sunday, that get up, play by the rules, do the right thing? Would you be prepared to pay more taxes to fund the benefits bill, to fund international aid, to fund migrants having lovely days out, which we'll be talking about in just a second? We've got a message from Sean that's come in on the back of that question. Good morning, Charlie. My sole purpose, if I were Chancellor, would be getting actual value for our taxes. Cut waste, cut benefits, defund quangos, abolish number 10 North. Well, it's a bit hard to do that for Sean, it's only just got going. But abolish number 10 North, scrap net zero, stop legal aid for non-Brits, stop funding illegal immigrants totally, cut the civil service massively, and stop foreign aid. And that's just for starters. Well, that's Sean's view. Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000, that's the number to call. Send a voice note or send a text to the 87222, or follow us on X and at talkTV, followed by your message. We'll be getting them all on air after this break.
We have to stand up to the French. We have to be much tougher. We have to stop. I mean, it is the pull factor is huge, but even without the pull factor, there are going to be people who, you know, want to come across that bit of ocean and come to us. And I just think, once again, you know, we do a lot of talking about it, and Andy Burnham, every time he's interviewed, says, oh yes, but there's fewer boats coming. There may be fewer boats coming, but they're actually bigger boats and they're holding just as many people. I think the money we're giving to France is unbelievably big for what they're doing for us.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning to you. This is Charlie Rowley here at Talk, kicking off weekend breakfast, sitting in for the wonderful Mark Dolan. And we're asking the question on this fine 22nd of August, Saturday. What would you do if you were the Chancellor? There are a number of stories in our national newspapers today talking about increasing in spending. So whether that's increasing in the benefits bill, whether it's an increase in international aid, whether it's spending on days out for those lovely migrants that come across our shores, who we don't know who they are, who throw their passport and all kinds of documentation into the sea, and yet we fund their days out. Would you cut the civil service, as Sean suggested earlier on? Would you cut public spending? Would you get rid of all the quangos? Would you increase taxes? Are you prepared to pay more taxes under a Burnham and Healey government? Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. Text word talk to 87222. I'm delighted for the first hour to be joined by the brilliant political commentator and friend of Talk, Candice Holdsworth, who's joining me to go through all of these kinds of stories. We were talking just a second ago before the break about some of those increases in tax that people might have to spend all that money on. So whether it's the benefits bill, whether it is international aid, there is a story that is now going to rile people up, I'm pretty sure of it, which is about freebies. Now, this is in the Sun, I believe, and a few others, where freebies fast fury, easy for you to say, as migrants offered £340 worth of days out at popular attractions for just £30 in two-tier Britain.
Yes, I mean okay, so stories like this are just designed to get everyone's blood pressure up. Basically, this is saying that we've got a kind of two-tier system in Britain where migrants are being offered sometimes something up to 90...
Just pause for a second. Sorry, Candice, because we're having a bit of trouble with your mic, so we'll get that sorted. But you're absolutely right. I think what you were going on to say is that the farce in the UK today is where a survey that was conducted, or an investigation, I should say, that was conducted out by Thomas Godfrey, the data journalist, I think, at the Sun, but it is in the Mail and a few other publications, that 21 attractions across the UK, ranging from a cathedral to Royal Botanic Gardens to museums, theatres, a place that I often frequent, swimming pools, also a place that I like to frequent, to try and keep fit and healthy. Now, all of those attractions put together a combined cost of a single ticket at all of these attractions, so 21 of them, that was valued at £337. Now, that is for an ordinary Brit, hard-working taxpayer that goes to work, does the right thing, pays their taxes. That would cost you, if you went to all of those attractions over the summer holidays, that would cost you £337. If you went to all of those attractions as a migrant, that would cost you just £28, a massive effective discount of 92%. Now, Candice, that's the reality. That's what this study has found. What do you make of that?
See, that is not surprising for me. Like I said, I mean, I have 3 children. I know how much things cost at the moment. I know how much people my age in the same phase of life are having to really cut back on things. So when they see this, it will just infuriate them, because I know this sounds cruel, but you should get in what you put, you should get out what you put in, right? And if someone hasn't contributed to the system, they shouldn't be able to take this much out. And I think what we're doing, and this is a really bad thing, is we're severing the link between work and reward. So you can work really, really, really hard, but it doesn't matter. Things will still cost a lot of money. You won't be able to do nice things. And you'll see your taxes going to people who haven't contributed anything.
I mean, people will ask, why on earth do we need to spend this money on these people in the first place? Why don't we have a system where we process people quickly enough? So if you do coming to the UK and you are genuinely seeking asylum, if you are genuinely fleeing persecution and seeking refuge, of course, Britain's doors will be open to you. That's in our history, it's in our DNA. We did exactly the same thing, for example, many people in Ukraine. That was the right decision. People opened up their hearts and their homes. No qualms there. But that was a quick process. And those people that were then allowed into the UK were allowed to work. They were allowed to go about their day-to-day, and they integrated into society, but they didn't need this. It's the people who come to the UK, obviously on a small boat, and many other ways now. Still, I think the amount of people on lorries coming across the channel is up compared to what it had been previously. I was about to say at an all-time high, but I'm not sure that's strictly true, but it is up. But the point is, when you come across illegally, by whatever means, you're not processed quickly enough, even if you are set for deportation because the Home Office hasn't been able to work out where you've come from and actually verify your story, you're then asked to leave, so you're deported, but then you can challenge that in the courts, and that can take up to about 2 years. So you're stuck in the UK, waiting this trial, waiting this decision, and all the while, the UK has to look after you. And therefore, you can't work because you're not documented in the UK to do so, but yet you get the accommodation still, you get these kinds of benefits. I mean, that would just enrage people, won't it?
Of course. Look, I mean, we have a lot of very powerful pull factors, and these are some of them, the incredibly generous benefits that are handing out to people seeking asylum. It's often the French, even though we get so frustrated with the French, it's something that they've criticised us for, saying, listen, you know, you have so many pull factors, you are making it so attractive for people to want to come to Britain to claim asylum. I've said from the beginning, scrapping the Rwanda scheme was a huge error. They should the Labour government should never have done it. It was a very, very good way to disincentivise people from wanting to come. And they just seem to have zero understanding of it, and we've still just got lots and lots of people coming. And it's alarming to me, like you say, that the people coming in on lorries, the numbers have gone up, because that was one of the success stories, that they had been able to stop people coming over illegally on lorries. So the fact the numbers are going up shows that they have completely failed in their mission to deter people from coming here illegally.
You're absolutely right. Well, we're asking a question this morning. What would you do if you were the Chancellor of the Exchequer? Would you be happy to spend more money as a taxpayer on foreign aid? We've got loads of texts coming in now on the dashboard. Christine says, if I was in the UK, no, I wouldn't pay more tax. Well, I want to know where you are, Christine. You might be somewhere a bit more nice. You know, even though it's a beautiful sunset today on a Saturday, the 22nd of August across London, we want to know where you are. But Christine says, if I was in the UK, no, I wouldn't pay more tax. The whole country should go on strike until they change things. But utopia, I know, that says Christine. It would be a bit difficult if the whole country went on strike, wouldn't it?
I can sometimes understand the justification for that. You know, am I getting out what I'm putting in? And, you know, the fact of the matter is that you can't, like I say, you cannot sever that link between work and reward. That's such a dangerous game to play.
Joe says, I've just retired after 42 years' work. Never claimed anything in my life. I'm owed £2,000 in overpaid tax on a pension payment. The first cheque was lost in the post. You know, good old Britain, you know, the bureaucracy of, you know, DWP at its best, and the post office. I was reissued, but told I won't receive it until the end of September. Can you imagine if I owed His Majesty's HMRC, Revenue and Customs, and my cheque was lost in the post? Why are they still using cheques? They need an overhaul. Now, that is a brilliant point also from Joe. That just sums up some of the way in which our institutions still work. It is, you know, of a bygone age where people are still sending cheques. Everything we're encouraged today to be digital, you know, digitally advanced. So, you know, paying your tax if you're self-employed, you know, whether it's claiming your pension or whatever it is, everything is digital, online banking. Why on earth are HMRC still paying in cheques?
Yes, I mean, try get hold of them on the phone. Speak to anyone who has a problem and they try to get hold of someone, and you won't. You'll be routed through about 3, 4 different people before you finally speak to someone. They're very, very efficient at extracting money from us. But for other things, well, less so.
You're absolutely right. You know, and that's a brilliant point, actually. Yes, if you've ever had to have a phone call with HMRC, if you've ever tried getting through to anyone helpful at all, they were really holed over the coals, I remember, at a particular set committee in Parliament, and have been told that they've got to up their game because many people call up trying to sort out their own tax affairs. Some people don't even pick up the phone, but when they do, you can get through to the stage after hanging on for about an hour, and then the operator puts the phone down on you. That was consistent. So they've really got to up their game, HMRC. I've got no love for HMRC, I have to say. I had a bit of a battle with them a couple of years ago. All resolved, I have to say, in my favour. So there you go. But don't ask me for any tax advice. I don't want to help. We've got a voice note from Boz. His plan as Chancellor.
Morning, Charlie. Travelling Boz here. Right, Chancellor. First thing he needs to do, cut the welfare benefits, kick out the 10, 12,000 in prison, send them off, deport them. That's a saving. No more handouts to anyone who hasn't paid into the system. It's a simple thing to do. Look after the people who have paid into the system, not the ones who come here, pay a couple of grand and then ponce for the rest of their lives. Absolutely scandalous. And how much 400,000 the MPs have taken already? Well, of course they would. You know, it's corrupt. The government is absolutely corrupt. Just look at the cabinet and work out who's had a few backhanders. All dodgy as hell. And that's the polite way of saying it.
Well, Boz, I think a lot of people would agree with you on that. Lots of people getting in touch and referencing the same thing. The benefits bill needs to be cut, foreign aid needs to be cut, net zero needs to be scrapped. We need to get a handle on our public service spending. Cliff, just messaging this morning. Morning, Charlie and Candice. Is it Burnham or is it really Miliband who seeks to increase foreign aid? Every time Miliband opens his mouth, it costs us money. He was the same when in charge of net zero. He's addicted to spending. And I think that's the problem. For all of the good start that Andy Burnham seems to have made as a communicator, much better than Keir Starmer, I think we've got to give him credit for that. It's not lost on the public that despite the maybe smooth Manchesterism, you know, cool, nice guy approach that he seems to be taking to number 10, spending is up. You know, the commitments that he's making that have been wheeled out, yes, it might help people a little bit in their lives, but, you know, he's avoided parliamentary scrutiny, hasn't faced the House of Commons yet. We've got a budget coming in the autumn, and we're hearing these stories about increases in spending in foreign aid. I mean, you know, we are spending much more than we've got coming into the country.
Absolutely. Look, he needs to get real. I mean, it's not, I promise, it's not just about style. I really think he's misread that. Yes, he seems a more affable type person, but the fact of the matter is we haven't... the past 10 years haven't taken out so many sitting British Prime Ministers because of their lack of style. There are deep structural problems in this country that keep coming up time and time again, and unless you're willing to tackle them, it's going to destroy you too. One of our huge problems is growth. And one of the big drags on growth is things like people pay too much in tax, so they don't spend on other things. There's over-regulation, so people can't access capital to start businesses, for instance. I mean, the divergence between Britain and America since the 2008 crisis is massive when we were on par. There's no reason for us to be struggling the way we are. Most of it is very, very poor policies. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Now, the US, which you mentioned very briefly, I know about this because we did a little conversation about it the other day, I think has now reached about £40 trillion of debt. However, you can accumulate a bit of debt as a country if, and you can borrow more money, and you can spend if it's on projects that are going to get you a return, but if there is the growth. And the thing about the US is that they still continue to grow. So yes, you can accumulate a bit of debt because you know in the long term you're going to be able to grow to pay off whatever it is that you've borrowed, those infrastructure projects that get you that return in the long term, and then you pay down your deficit and then ultimately the debt. But we don't have growth in the UK. That's the problem. That's the doom loop that we're in. More taxes, more spending, more borrowing,
more debt that then just gets laid on to the next generation, and it might be your kids that end up paying that bill.
100%. It's frustrating because we have the human capital. We have some of the best universities in the world. We have some of the brightest entrepreneurs. But guess where they go when they want to take their business to the next level? They go to the US so that they can access more capital. This is a tragedy. This should not be happening to us. And like I said, it's been, you know, it is well recognized that it was sort of an overreaction in this country to the 2008 financial crisis. And people just haven't been able to get money to do things and to grow things. And of course, Labour has, in my opinion, just the most risk-averse instincts when it comes to this. I mean, they think that everything comes from the state. And so far, everything that I've heard from Andy Burnham and John Healey, they think that just by spending more, they can get growth going. No, no, no. You create the conditions for ordinary people to get going. I truly believe that.
Yep. It's businesses and individuals that create growth, not governments. Very quickly before we go to a break, we've got Dean who's been in touch. He says, morning, Charlie and Candice. Foreign aid and net zero should be scrapped forever. And by the way, I see all taxation as theft. I wouldn't go as far to say it was theft, because I still think that we in the UK believe that, you know, taxes that are raised should be going on public services, things that we all use at a time of need, particularly the NHS. And I don't think anybody begrudges someone who does end up on benefits, somebody that does need that little security blanket for a short period of time just to get them through a difficult patch. I think, you know, we might all know someone that's been in that situation, so I don't begrudge paying tax, but I want that tax to be spent effectively. I want every penny of taxpayers' hard-earned pounds going into public services that are efficient, that are firing on all cylinders, that are delivering in the way that they are intended. But let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000 or text the word talk to 87222. We're asking the question this morning, what would you do if you were Chancellor? Are you happy to pay more money on foreign aid? Are you happy for the benefits bill to keep ballooning? Are you happy for a freebie farce of migrants that come into the country to get trips and days out at a fraction of the cost that it would cost you as a hard-working taxpayer? 0344 499 1000. This is Charlie Rowley at Talk, the home of common sense. I'll be back with Candice after this break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning to you. This is Charlie Rowley, kicking off Talk Weekend Breakfast here on this fine Saturday morning. I'm sitting in for Mark Dolan, and who I don't know why he's off. But we wish him all the best. He's on holiday, I've just had it confirmed, and something that I think we can all deserve every now and again, so don't begrudge him for that. But enjoying sitting in, filling his shoes on this weekend breakfast. But I want to hear your views. 0344 499 1000. We've been having a brilliant conversation this morning about Britain's ballooning budget. Do you want to pay more tax? What would you do if you were Chancellor of the Exchequer? Are you happy that your hard-working taxpayers' money is going to be be going on, potentially, on foreign aid? Or are you happy also? Or do you accept that it's OK that migrants that come into the country illegally are given freebie days out at a fraction of the cost that it would cost you as a hard-working taxpayer wanting to spend money on your family and treat them to a nice summer? Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. We've got loads of texts coming in, which we'll get to in a second. But I do want to change tack, because that will be the story of the day. That's what we'll be talking about for the next 4 hours, no less. Britain's budget and our ballooning deficit. So let's talk about a few other stories that are in the national newspapers today. Shabama Mahmood has come out, I think, in the Telegraph, to say that she had to release killers early. This is the Home Secretary, but when she was Justice Secretary, she claims that the entire justice system risked collapse without the unpalatable decision to release prisoners early.
Yeah, so this story in the Telegraph, she's justifying the early release scheme, which she was the architect of when she was at the Ministry of Justice. She would say, I'm being pragmatic. We had to do this. There were no more prison places available. It was clogging up the judicial system. I did what had to be done. But I would say, that, once again, the optics of it have been appalling. They've been so bad, and it's caused so much public anger. I mean, I remember very early on in Keir Starmer's premiership, and they were releasing people, and the images of all these people popping champagne, I mean, it was just so bad for him. It was a very, very, very bad start. And I think it's also been bad for Andy Burnham, particularly with the release of 2 of the convicted killers of PC Andrew Harper. And so many victims have come out and said, we really, really, really disagree with this. I think once again, the mood has massively shifted in the country, and I think it's also because of the difficult times we live in. You know, people want order and people want justice, and they see this and they just feel like things are being mismanaged so badly. Why don't we have any extra prison places? Why can't we build anything? I mean, this is Britain, for goodness sake.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, the charge that was made by the last Labour government, so this is Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves, you know, they came into office and they said, look, you know, under those ghastly Tories that got an absolute kicking at the last general election, this is their view, they didn't build the prison places. They left us in such a state where the prison capacity was at, you know, complete full. We have to release some prisoners early. Otherwise, there'll just be chaos in our prisons. We won't be able to house, at His Majesty's pleasure, new convicts that come down the line. So she's got no choice. Now, that's a new government, OK? And I disagreed with that, but, you know, that was the narrative, that was the message. A new government is entitled to, you know, put its case forward as it sees it. And funny enough, early prisoner release, I should say, has always been something that civil servants have presented to ministers. Ministers in previous administrations have declined that option in favour of maybe alternative punishments. But, you know, the Labour government went for it. But we're 2 years in now. To a Labour government. They've had time to maybe take a carbon copy plan that was produced during COVID, where if you had to move prisoners out of prisons during COVID, because if there was going to be a mass spread of the disease, they'd have to be housed somewhere. You wouldn't just let them free during COVID. And so there were plans to set up, whether it's Nightingale prisons, whether it was about converting old, whether it's army barracks, whether it was old holiday campsites, you know, Butlins, Pontins, Haven, you know the like. You can convert an old site into a prison where there's accommodation pretty quickly. But the government is still now wrestling with an early prisoner release scheme. Why don't they just knock it on the head?
Oh, yes, but see, but the thing is, everything you're talking about would make total sense in the private sector. You are flexible, you try and make things work, but I think one of the problems we have a very rigid bureaucracy that has to follow all these different procedures and processes and meet various types of regulations, and it just becomes impossible. I mean, there are actually empty prisons where no one can go because the fire safety regulations haven't been met. Now, I'm not saying we should build prisons that are dangerous or, you know, that you could have catastrophic fires and people could die, but probably, most likely, if you think about it, common sense, those regulations are probably just a little bit too strict. They most likely are. If they're clogging things up this bad, then they most likely are. I mean, we have so many building restrictions in this country that stop things getting built. I mean, I remember remember reading something just quite startling that, you know, the beautiful Georgian houses that everyone loves so much, we couldn't even build them today because they wouldn't meet any of the planning regulations. I mean, that's crazy that this is what goes on. And I feel like what's happening is the public is being forced to accept lower and lower and lower standards because of a failing bureaucracy.
Which is all caught up, I'm afraid, in the civil service. I mean, they are the ones that present these decisions to ministers, but you need the political will, don't you? You need, you know, Angela Rayner, effectively, who's the housing minister in charge of the planning system in our country, to be able to say, no, I'm not having it anymore. If we need to build more prisons, if we need to build more homes, we're going to get on and do it. And we're going to be the government that actually, you know, can have a legacy for building more homes or prisons to deal with some of the things that clearly haven't been delivered over the previous governments.
Yeah, I mean, the Victorians wouldn't recognise us. I mean, we're sort of like the ghost of Christmas future. They would be like, what have you done to our civilization?
And absolutely, you know, it seems as though we're going backwards, but also spending even more money. Taxes at a record high, spending more money, £3 trillion worth of debt. Are we going in the wrong direction? Well, let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. That's the views of Candice Holdsworth, who's still with me for the next 15 minutes to talk about some other news stories. But it's all about you. I want to know what you think. What would you do if you were Chancellor of the Exchequer? Are you happy to spend more? Are you happy to borrow more? Would you be spending hard-working taxpayers' money on a foreign aid budget, something that we've been talking about in the press today? Would you be happy to spend more money on benefits? Would you cut the benefits bill? And if so, how would you do it? 0344 499 1000. We've got a couple of callers on the line, which we'll be coming to after the break.
You know what, I am fed up of commentators, politicians on the left denigrating British history. Yes, Britain had an empire, but I'm standing here in Victoria Gardens in Westminster looking directly at a statue or a monument to William Wilberforce, because what people don't talk about is the immense good that was done by the British Empire. We are the only country in the history of the world that actually set our Royal Navy to work to end slavery. We were the first country to do it, and we were the only country that devoted, you know, money and resource to the great effort of doing that.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
We've got a couple of callers lined up. When we're asking the question this morning, what would you do if you were Chancellor of the Exchequer? We've got two Jackies. That's what you need to be called in order to get on Weekend Breakfast here at Talk. Just call yourself Jackie. But first of all, we'll go to Jackie in Oldham. Morning, Jackie.
Good morning, Charlie. Good morning, Candice. If I was Chancellor of the Exchequer, I would be absolutely ruthless because of the dire economic state that we're in. First of all, I'd scrap the Public Accounts Committee that hold the government to account over spending because I don't think they're fit for purpose. Secondly, I would link MPs' pay to growth. So if we get no growth, they get no pay rise. Thirdly, I would.
Is that an MP's issue? Just on that one, Jackie, because that's an interesting point. I think a lot of people would say, actually, yeah, MPs are paid too much and they don't deliver and the country seems to be going backwards, so they should be either not paid or they should be certainly have pay capped or have their pay taken away, some people might argue. But is it all MPs or is it just the government? Because the government are the ones that are in the driving seat.
They are in the driving seat, but we need to change the mindset of Parliament because for so many years we've had negligible growth and we need to change the mindset, and it might awaken them to get on board for creating growth if they get financial penalties.
OK. You said you're going to be ruthless in your cuts. What else would you cut, apart from the Public Accounts Committee?
I would cut the size of the state. I would cut the contributions to public sector pay. I would put people on performance-related pay so that we're getting results. And I would let the National Audit Office do a massive audit of where funding is going and being wasted because we are the fifth largest economy in the world, but we're 27th on GDP per capita. So our living standards are going down and down and down, but our taxes are going up and up and up, and it cannot go on. Cannot go on.
I think a lot of people would agree with you, but I wanted to ask you, Jackie, where do you stand on the benefits bill and foreign aid? Because these are two areas that we've been learning about today, front page of the Mail, or within the Mail, that we are spending £1 billion a day, I think it is, on benefits, and then the prospect of increasing our foreign aid budget back up to 0.7% of that GDP of growth that, you know, as you said, it isn't there anyway. But what do you feel about, A, the benefits bill in our country and spending more on foreign aid?
First, the benefits bill. I would get back to face-to-face consultations. I would take it out of the hands of Serco. I would take it back to doctor referrals so that we can work on medical evidence. I would also slash all benefits for foreign migrants, foreign nationals. It's not acceptable. And as for what was the other one, Charlie, that you mentioned? We got the benefits and then the foreign aid.
Foreign aid bill, yep.
Yeah, I would slash that dramatically because the amount, where the aid goes is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, some of the things that it sponsors and brings no benefit to this country whatsoever.
Well, it's even going to Pakistan, who is refusing to take a serial rapist that we're trying to deport back to them. And they've threatened us to say, actually, don't push us too far, otherwise we won't take him or any other criminals that come from Pakistan that we're trying to deport, to which I think has caused quite a bit of consternation because I think Nigel Farage, leader of Reform UK, has been very open about it to say that he would actually cut all foreign aid going to Pakistan and stopping visas of people from Pakistan coming to the UK. So tough words there. Just before you go, Jackie, and we'll come to Jackie Whitstable, have you worked in the public sector, Jackie? You seem to know your onions, whether it's about GDP and growth and whether it's about Serco and contracts. Did you work in government at all or the public sector?
Well, I started off as a nurse and then I worked my way up and ran massive services for the NHS. So I know about the bureaucracy, which holds everything down. It's like wading through treacle, trying to get anything improved. And it's also about the money, the waste, etc. I was very on the ball with my budgets. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people in the public sector that don't have that same mindset.
And just before you go, sorry, I know I said that was the last question, but this one will be really interesting, I think, certainly to me and all Talk listeners this morning, because the NHS is always seen as a cut above the rest, as something that we have to keep spending more money on, that we have to protect, that you don't want to make cuts to, because it's sort of a sacred part of our UK DNA. But there are a lot of people that would say there is a lot of waste that goes on in the NHS. It's not necessarily cutting the budget of the NHS, but it's making the cuts of inefficiency and waste within the NHS to then redistribute, maybe, in order to make sure that the ambulances are turning up on time, to make sure that waiting lists are actually coming down. Is there a lot of waste in the NHS that you think could be cut to be redistributed?
Oh, absolutely, Charlie. Absolutely. And you only have to look at procurement. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And if you look at procurement throughout the public sector, whether it's the MOD, whether it's the NHS, we cannot do procurement properly in this country. And there are loads of areas of savings that we could do. But we've got to have the courage to send people in there to do it.
Jackie, you are the voice of reason. You worked in the NHS. You have diagnosed the problems of this country and provided the medication for what it needs. I think that was an absolutely top call, and it proves so because Rob Lane has got in touch to say, wow, Jackie for Chancellor. That's from Rob in Cambridge. So, Jackie from Oldham, thank you so much for your call. Brilliant stuff there. Do get in touch again. Let's hear what now Jackie from Whitstable has to say. Hi, Jackie.
Good morning.
Good morning. What would you do if you were Chancellor, Jackie?
Well, controversially, I'd adopt exactly the budget that Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng wanted to. And
it didn't go so well for them, though, Jackie, did it?
No, because they were stitched up, weren't they, by Andrew Bailey, Rishi Sunak, and Davos.
Andrew Bailey was the governor of the Bank of England at the time. It still is now, isn't it?
Absolutely. And he actually admitted that he hadn't told Liz Truss of some of the problems that she could face because he didn't know. Well, come on, he's governor of the Bank of England and he should know. And I do believe this was all deliberate because those who run the Conservative Party didn't want Liz Truss there. It's usually about Europe. She was quite happy to get Brexit done, and although she had voted Remain, she changed her mind on that one. And I think she was stitched up. And I hate to say it, but this is what happens. And we're run by the markets.
I think a lot...
You can't buck the trend.
Yeah, Jackie, I think, look, you know, a lot of people would agree with you, I think, the truth be told. You know, what Liz Truss tried to do is she tried to make massive cuts in public spending, massive cuts in taxes, because she thought the tax burden was far too high for hard-working Brits, alarm clock Brits, like many of the people that tune in to talk. What she didn't... And so that was all very well and good, and I think people could get behind that. But I think... without laying the groundwork for the markets, I think without going to the Office of Budget Responsibility, that's something that former Tory Chancellor George Osborne set up, which is a organisation that you basically run the budget through, and they will be able to, you know, go away and do all the work to say, yep, that will have this kind of impact, or yep, you'll get growth here, and it sort of gives the market confidence for when you then announce your budget. You've got the Office of Budget Responsibility that is slightly independent to sort of verify it and back you up. She didn't do that. She didn't go to them. She didn't get their sort of take on it, which led to people thinking, right, well, there's, you know, she's a bit of a loose goose, if I can put it like that, and perhaps not the best communicated to then be able to sell it. You know, there was no real, I think, guts behind it to be able to say, look, yep, OK, I know the markets weren't prepared for this, but this is the medicine that the country needs to take, and I'm delivering it.
Well, you see, I look at it differently. I supported George Osborne. The country was bankrupt when he became Chancellor, and he did say, if anybody remembers, it would take decades to get out of it. Well, we're still not out of it because the previous government, I mean, Blair and Brown, destroyed us. I don't know if you remember, but things were really bad.
Well,
I remember the 70s. Yeah, you wouldn't.
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know the 70s. I'm afraid. I wouldn't know. I don't go back that far. But Jackie, we've got to leave it there. I'm afraid. And thank you so much for your call, Candice. Just on the back of those two calls from both Jackies, brilliant Jackies there. What do you make of what they had to say?
Isn't it amazing how much common sense ordinary people have? Seriously, just trust ordinary people. But I think that is one of the big problems. Is I think that we have an overly large state that's sort of crushes ordinary people who are actually pretty good at understanding what was going on. Like you say, they diagnose correctly.
Absolutely. Well, let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. We've had some brilliant calls. We've had some brilliant texts this morning. We're asking the question, what would you do if you were Chancellor? More taxes, more borrowing, more spending seems to be on the way. That's what's across all of our national newspapers. Let me know what you think. This is Charlie Rowley in for Mark Dolan at Weekend Breakfast. This is Talk.
The entire city is being overwhelmed, and there are people who bear direct responsibility. Those responsible are the national government, led by Pedro Sanchez and his ministers, as well as Mr. Marlaska, and of course, the European institutions, which have completely failed in what's supposed to be the European Union's external border.
Which country in Europe wipes everybody else's backside but its own people? Here.
Well, Morocco, of course, is hosting the next World Cup. I mean, are we suggesting that...
Oh, don't start me on the World Cup. We'll get
the country that's hosting the next World Cup is too unsafe. It's so unsafe.
Oh, great point.
People have to cross continents to come to Europe, and of course, I have seen personally examples of this. People come from Morocco into Spain, across to the mainland, up France, through the south of France, up to the north of France, where they reach Calais and then eventually come to the UK.
It is a cause for concern, and we are making contact with the Spanish government, the Spanish authorities, to provide support, but also to understand the implications of that situation.
Some of you might remember a poster I put out 10 years ago called Breaking Point, where I showed vast numbers illegally breaking into the European Union. I made the point that if we vote for Brexit, we'll have the power to stop those people coming here. Sadly, the Tories failed us, Labour have failed us. Believe me, unless we get a reform government, those scenes you're seeing in Spain today, many of those young men, lots of them dangerous, will be heading towards Calais and coming to our country too. It is time to wake up. This is a battle for the future of our civilization. I can't put it any more plainly than that.
When you look at what happened to Spain, they don't know what to do. And it's happening again today. They're coming in by the tens of thousands. They're just invading the country. And what that is weak law, bad management, but very liberal law. They passed a couple of laws, and people read. You know, people are smart. They read from other countries, and they swam that 3-mile sweat law, however they got in, but nobody's seen anything like it. That will look good compared to what's going to happen to the United States. The biggest thing, the worst thing that Biden did is allowing 25 million people into our country.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning to you. This is Weekend Breakfast with me, Charlie Rowley, sitting in for the fantastic Mark Dolan on this fine Saturday, the 22nd of August. It is the home of common sense here at Talk TV, and we've been having a brilliant conversation this morning about all things taking place across our national media. So let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000 if you want to be part of the conversation. You can text the word TALK to 87222 or follow us and send us a message on X, just at Talk TV, followed by your message, and we'll be getting all of your calls and texts read out as soon as we can. We've been asking the question this morning, what would you do if you were Chancellor of the Exchequer? There is £1 billion a day being spent on our benefits bill. The benefits bill that the last Labour government failed to even think about cutting. What would you do? Do you think we should be spending more on benefits? Do you think we've got it about right? Or do you think we should be cutting that benefits bill? We've also got a story in the national newspapers today to say that the Burnham and Ed Miliband, yes, that old creature that you know of and love, I'm sure, very well, Ed Miliband, wanting to spend more on UK foreign aid, taking it back up to 0.7% of GDP. That means your hard-working taxpayers' money could be sent abroad rather than being spent on public services here at home. I want to know what you think about that. And finally, freebies fast. We have learnt after a investigation of 21 attractions across the UK took place that migrants that come into the country have been given a 92% discount this summer over some of those attractions. So a family wanting to go out on to all of those attractions would have cost you about 330 quid. For a migrant, it's about 30. Let me know what you think about all those topics. 0344 499 1000. As I say, text the word talk to 87222. This is Weekend Breakfast with me, Charlie Rowley. Let's talk. And as always, start the message with the word talk, and we'll get it out as soon as we can. I've got a few here to kick off our second hour this morning. Morning, Charlie. Jackie from Whitstable is 100% correct regarding Liz Truss. She was hijacked by the blob. That's from Roger in Chichester. Now, that was the call I've just had with Jackie number 2, because we had 2 of them call up this morning, who was a big fan of the Liz Truss budget. More tax cuts, more spending restrictions. But, you know, Liz Truss has always maintained that she thought that there was a blob out to get them, including the Bank of England. Roger agrees. Let me know what you think. Were you a fan of the Liz Truss budget? Do you want to see more tax rises? Do you think we should be spending more? Would you be happy, actually, to pay more tax on some of our public services to deal with some of the issues that we've got in our country? Let me know. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. Rich has texted in to say, Charlie, when I first came to the UK, 17 to 25 pence in every pound collected by government was spent on their gravy train. Now it's 55 to 67 pence, leaving nothing for infrastructure, the Ministry of Defence or growth. The quangos and unions are the biggest cancer in the UK. That's what Betty says from texting in. Strong stuff there. But yes, I think making the point very clearly that, you know, for every pound that the government rakes in, where is the money going? We want every penny of taxpayers' money to be spent effectively in this country, not on quangos, not on people on benefits that shouldn't be claiming, certainly not on migrants that across the channel, that come across from the channel, who we don't know who they are, who are offered accommodation, that are offered benefits, that are offered doctors and dentist appointments, and now we're learning today freebies on days out. That's from Rich there. We've got a couple more texts that have come in. A lot of texts are like essays this morning, I have to say, and so I'll try and read some of these out. But we've got one from Margaret that says, Charlie, why do we see ads for charity donations for food and medical treatment for countries we give foreign aid to? Where is the foreign aid being spent in these countries? Is it to fund the lifestyle of their leaders? An excellent point indeed. We do send an awful lot of foreign aid across to multiple countries, but we are still seeing adverts, you're right, of famine, of disease, of people asking for money from hardworking Brits. Is it time that we just pull up the drawbridge, that we should be spending every pound of UK taxpayers on the UK? Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. Well, I'm delighted to say joining me now is Senior Fellow of the New Culture Forum to go through all of these issues and more, Philip Kisley, who I've spoken to before, big fan and friend of this show and this station. Good morning, Phil.
Hi, Charlie. How are you doing? All right.
Not too bad at all. Now, I tried to counter through some of those stories this morning because we've got a lot about the economy, and that's why we're asking people this morning, what would they do if they were Chancellor? Because one of the leading stories is one that there is a staggering sum of money that is being spent on benefits to the tune of £1 billion a day. What have we got to do to get public spending under control, Philip?
Oh, my God, what a question at 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning. I'll do my best.
If there's anyone that can answer it, I know it's you.
I'll do my best with it, Charlie. Well, we have the wrong model. We have a tax and spend model, and the noises that Andy Burnham is making, Ed Miliband, etc., are all the wrong noises, and it fills me with foreboding for the future. I keep going back to the 1970s and thinking about what happened in the 1970s, 1974, and the winter of discontent in 1979. And I think we're going there. We are heading there. If we have financial meltdown or we go into a recession, then we will see all the other problems that are plaguing us, the social and cultural problems, flare up massively. Because when people can't afford to pay the rent, they can't afford to pay mortgages, they can't afford to feed children, that's when they panic, and that's what we will probably have. Now, all of these numbers that people are throwing around, I mean, you know, as an individual, I don't know what £1 million a day looks like. The figures are just incomprehensible, and they are to many of us. So what people tend to do is say, well, I don't really understand it, so I'll just put it to the back of my mind and it will all be okay. It won't be okay. We have a gargantuan national debt. So I think we really desperately need to cut welfare. We have, what, over 9 million, is it 9.2 million people on welfare at the moment? So we have a culture of care for people who do not need it. Now, the hallmark of a civilized society is a safety net. I'm not saying we should remove the safety net for people who desperately need benefits, but most people, I would suggest actually most of that 9.2 million people don't actually need those benefits. If you are on benefits for ADHD, if you are getting PIP for anxiety and depression, yes, there are some manifestations of depression where you literally cannot do anything. But as we all know, this is a kind of, much of this is a kind of lifestyle. People are choosing not to work. So we have to change the culture. It isn't just about economic models. It's about resetting society, and it's about changing that culture. We need a culture of entrepreneurism. We need a culture of work. We need a culture of energy. And to do that, we have to have a country, a place that we feel as though is ours and we own and we want to do well for. So we want to do well for our families, we want to do well for ourselves, but we also want to do well for our country. How's that for a broad-ranging answer?
It's brilliant, and you know, so many questions are now firing off in my mind, because you're absolutely right. But most people, I think, understand that and get that and will accept that. Yeah, absolutely. You know, we need a safety blanket for people in this country. You know, there is nothing wrong with that. You know, if you fall on hard times, you should have a bit of a period there where you might have to rely on the state to get back up onto your feet, and then be able to go and make the contributions that you would want to make as someone who is a success in the UK. The question is, though, I suppose, are this Labour government, are they not best placed to get this under control? Are they not best placed to set this narrative of everything that you've just talked about? Because they are traditionally seen, maybe compared to the Conservatives, maybe even compared to Reform UK, who are very keen to articulate the tax cuts that they want to make, or the cutting of benefits to fund defence. But without that, you know, you need a narrative that brings people along with you. And if you've got all of these people, as you say, a record number of people on benefits for a number of reasons, for reasons where perhaps the majority of us might think they don't necessarily require financial support if you're claiming it for ADHD or other mental health conditions like anxiety, for example. But is Labour not best placed to be able to have that kind of lovey-dovey conversation with the public and make those cuts, and that brings the public with them? It'd be a huge success story for this government, wouldn't it?
Well, it would be a huge success story, but no, I don't think they are best placed. I think they are absolutely the wrong people to have that conversation, because first of all, they don't understand business, and Britain needs to get back to business. It needs to get back to work. And I think what the Labour government does automatically, as a natural knee-jerk reaction, it takes rather than creates. So socialism, and we're talking about international socialism, we're talking about open borders here. The Labour government's natural reaction to any situation is to give with one hand, while taking on the other. You can't get away from any any Labour government, you cannot get away from the tax and spend model. And the further left you go, and we've got a pretty left-wing government at the moment, the further left you go, the more extreme that model gets. So no, I would disagree with that proposition, Charlie. I would say that these people are absolutely the wrong people. And we are moving forward. And we seem to be going into a new era, I would say, an era of more benefits, more welfare, more reliance on a big state. I mean, it's little things, right? So Andy Burnham should be dealing with the really big issues. We have, what is essentially tantamount to a sex war on women and children on the streets of Britain. I was talking about this with Alex Phillips yesterday. Okay, that's a huge issue. What do? They put a leaflet out saying, you must never attempt to have sex with someone who is asleep. That's the situation we're in at the moment, okay? But they will not deal with that. The big economic issues, Andy Burnham's response is to offer free bus fares and £2 bus fares. So the problem is, I think, with this Labour government is that essentially we have a mayor of Britain rather than a prime minister of Britain. He will not deal with the big issues because he has a parochial socialist mindset, and he cannot anyway deal with those big issues because he doesn't have the toolkit. He doesn't understand the economy in the way that he needs to, and he doesn't understand business and entrepreneurship.
Well, I think a lot of people would agree with that. I mean, he seems to be flooding the media landscape, talking about those low-hanging fruit items. So whether, as you rightly said, it's about bringing bus fares down from the £3 cap to £2. It's not a huge, significant change that you wouldn't expect, really, a Prime Minister to be announcing. That's something you'd wheel out your sort of, junior transport minister, I imagine, back in the day. Talking about, taking 20% off VAT for hospitality, something, actually, that was just, reversing what Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves put up in the first place, and then telling us not to light a barbecue during a heat wave. Well, good heavens, do we need the Prime Minister really to be getting involved in those issues when you say the big ticket items are stopping the small boats crisis, dealing with early prison releases, which in my view shouldn't be released at all, so finding an actual solution to that, and dealing with the economy. And you talked about international socialism. I mean, another story in our papers today is that there is the plan to perhaps raise our international aid spending once again to 0.7% of GDP. It came down to 0.5 and then cut to 0.3 under Keir Starmer. So maybe he got that one right. But putting it back up to 0.7 when we don't have, it seems, enough money in the UK to be spending on our priorities, or we're not spending money wisely on our priorities in the UK. I mean, it begs the question, doesn't it? What on earth is this government thinking about?
Well, it really does. I mean, the front benches are not really thinking. They just want to placate the extremists on the back benches. And while I was reading this story, it's an exclusive in The Sun. It's a great story. It's a great exclusive. I was thinking about Charles Dickens and Bleak House and Mrs. Jellyby, the brilliant satirical character Mrs. Jellyby, who is obsessed with Africa to the extent that her house, her husband, and her children go to rack and ruin. And this is in the 1850s. We haven't changed. That kind of ridiculous, over-the-top satirical character, they are actually running the country now. They are in the institutions. They are in the public sector. And while our own country is going to rack and ruin, all they can think about is their own virtue and looking outwards rather than inwards. As I say, we are looking at financial meltdown here in the not too distant future. We are looking at a recession. You can't get away from that. Any sensible economist will tell you. And what we desperately need in this country, what any economy needs in terms of buoyancy, is one simple thing, and that's confidence. I go out into the town. I live like on the edge of a town centre. I go out into the town centre. You know, you go into the shops, you look at the small businesses, in particular the small businesses, and that confidence just isn't there. And for me, that's a huge worry.
Isn't there an argument, though, to be had, which was, I think, probably the George Osborne, David Cameron argument, that actually if you spend more on international aid and you allow countries to deal with some of those problems who aren't as developed in terms of their economies as we are in the UK, you allow those countries to sort their problems out by a little bit of a gift aid from the UK, that then prevents unrest, civil unrest, disorder in their own countries. That prevents mass migration taking place that then ends up on our shores. So it's an investment, as it were, to stop some of the issues ending up on our shores. Do you buy that argument?
Well, no, I don't really, because there's a carrot on our shores, and it's welfare, housing, education, freebies. You were talking about freebies before, and maybe we'll come to that. But you know, hardworking families have to pay, I think it's £24.50 to get into Kew Gardens. Migrants have to pay 85p. Okay, so there we are. They know. You know, they have iPhones, they have technology, they know why they want to come here. So no, I don't think that plays out, because you need, as I say, before you can give anything away, you need at least a basic level of prosperity at home. That's how it works. If you're giving everything you have and you're in debt and yet you're still giving things away, then something is massively wrong. So it just feels as though we're in a real mess here. And I'll give you one example of the kind of aid we are giving away. And these stats came out in 2025, so it was just last year. Condoms to Pakistan. We are spending something like £75 million a year on funding condoms in Pakistan. Now, really? I mean, really? You know, that is the kind of aid. Now, you could say, well, you know, a family planning, that's very important in Pakistan. It really isn't our responsibility. Our responsibility is making sure we do not have porous borders, okay? That's the responsibility, okay? So it's priorities. Yes, you know, family planning in Pakistan is important, but our borders, let's secure our borders first, let's look after ourselves, then let's look outwards and think about looking after other people.
Look, I think a lot of people would agree with that. I mean, just to sort of try and balance things out, I mean, I did watch some of the news last night where there seems to be a government communication approach to tell the public that the French are now actually pulling their weight, that they've got a crack squad there that goes down and they do actually now slash the dinghies, that the number of small boat crossings is down this year compared to last, that the returns rates are up. But all of that doesn't really help when, as you say, there are other pull factors, and asking the question, why do people want to come to the UK in the first place? Why don't they stay in France? Maybe it is because of the benefits that we seem to be able to give out, including those freebies of, you know, in comparison to what a family has to pay to go to all of those attractions. As you say, you know, massive discounts of about 90% to people who are coming into this country illegally. Two-tier Britain in full focus. And then the prospect, as you say, the Home Office publishing these leaflets, pamphlets, handing to men who, in my view, you know, are not... If you come from a culture, frankly, where it's acceptable to treat a woman incredibly differently, where you force them to cover up their face, where you don't allow them access to education, where you can have multiple wives, where if you're a 60, 70, 80-year-old man can marry a 6, 7, 8-year-old girl and take part in child marriage, all of those things, if you're a young man coming from that country or a man coming from those kinds of countries, I don't actually think you're probably fleeing much persecution of which the UK can help. So when they do arrive on our shores, to be handed a leaflet which basically says, yes, by the way, don't attack women, I mean, it is beggars belief, isn't it?
It really does. I mean, I looked at, I think that leaflet was published on Wednesday, and I looked at it and I just literally could not believe What I was reading, it was the tone as well as the content. It was a wheedling kind of, please don't rape people. You know, we don't like it here. You know, it's not acceptable. It's frowned upon. It was that kind of ludicrous tone. And I think, you know, the government is making a choice. It's making a value judgment between migrants on the one hand who come from places like Afghanistan, where there is no age of consent, and the safety of women and children, British women and children on the other hand. And they are choosing to prioritize migrants. They are putting women and children very clearly and very definitely, and they are admitting it in their own words in that leaflet. So that value judgment seems to sum up everything we've been talking about. What do we value here? What does the government value here? Does it value our own economy, or does it value foreign aid? It values foreign aid. What does it value here? Does it value our own people, or does it value migrants? It values migrants. Now, you know, any sensible policy would secure our own people, their safety, their economic well-being first, okay? We would put our culture and society first. We would put it on a footing in which it thrives. We do not do that. We fundamentally do not do the basics, and that is the problem. But again, that comes from the model. It comes from the ideology. It comes from the vision of what we should be and how we should be going about things. And as I say, it's fundamentally wrong.
Well, Philip, this is the home of common sense, and you speak so much of it. I know our viewers and listeners will agree. We've got to leave it there. Philip Kisley, thank you so much for your time. Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum, and was on Alex Phillips' show yesterday. I'm sure you'll be back. I've no doubt about that. Let me know what you think about that brilliant conversation with Philip there. 0344 499 1000. What do you think about the rising benefits bill, the rise in foreign aid that we might have to be paying for, and all of our money, hard-working taxpayers' money, going on these freebies for migrants? 0344 344 499 1000, I should say, or text the word talk to 87222, or follow us on X. Just start the message with the word @talkTV, and we'll read out as many as we possibly can. I just want to read out a couple of texts that have come in. John from Reading says Miliband wants to increase foreign aid to 21 billion. That's 57.53 million per day. Just imagine what could be achieved by distributing that amount of money to councils around the country. You're absolutely right. Councils do an awful lot of work and pick up a lot of slack. They don't get enough, or they ask a lot for central government. Do they spend it wisely? Question about there. But, you know, more money to councils, not a bad thing. I can't understand the hypocrisy of powerful socialists being so rich and accepting gratitudes. Well, we'll be talking about that story a little bit later on. There's a number of MPs in the House of Commons that seem to be claiming freebies. What do you make of that? 0344 499 1000. Let me know. We'll be getting all your calls and texts out onto the air after this break. This is Charlie Rowley in for Weekend Breakfast. This is Talk.
Harry and Meghan had no problem sitting across from Oprah Winfrey and unleashing on this family. When the Queen was in the final days, weeks, and months of her life, guess who was filming their Netflix docuseries where they accused an entire country of racism? Harry and Meghan, unbothered by the Queen's illness, unbothered by the fact that she was an elderly woman who, you know, should have been enjoying her twilight years, but was fearing what was to come from Montecito.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Just want to read out a couple of your texts that have been coming in thick and fast about the question that we're asking today. What would you do if you were Chancellor? Eris says the safety net is so broken we can't even help people with end-of-life care properly. You're absolutely right. I know Andy Burnham has talked about social care, getting adult social care properly funded, but that, again, costs more money. Would we be happy to pay more tax for that? I think we might be, but I think we'd rather see public spending getting under control in order to fund it rather than more tax rises. Got another one here that says, Talk, Burnham and Ed want to increase, that's Ed Miliband, want to increase foreign aid, but victims of terrorism, contaminated blood, the post office scandal and rape victims are denied or delayed compensation. Not only do we give aid, we also give billions in charity donations. We are the world's biggest mugs. That's from Mick there. Let me know what you think. Are we spending all of UK's taxpayers' money, easy for me to say, on the right priorities? Well, we've got Bob on the line in Clacton-on-Sea. Bob, good morning.
Charlie, good morning.
What do you think? What would you do if you were Chancellor? Are we spending all money on the right priorities?
Well, first of all, I think you're smashing this programme. It's brilliant.
Bob, you can call any time. You can call any time. Thank you.
But I just had a thought. Why don't we demand that, say, we get a monthly spreadsheet from the government to say what their income revenues are and where they're coming from and how they are dispersing them, you know, because we never really get told that. You know, we just get told, oh, the country's... apparently we're now £3 trillion in debt, OK? So we then, right, we go and borrow money to give it away to in foreign aid, for instance. So, for instance, if I went down the bank and they said, oh, hi, Bob, you know, what can we do? I want to borrow 10 grand. Fine, yeah, OK. What do you want to do with it? I want to give it away. Well, when can you pay it back? Oh, I don't know. Well, they tell me where to go. You know, these are basic economics. We cannot surely continue on this downward spiral of borrowing. It's every penny we pay in tax is not benefiting our country, it's benefiting somebody else.
And what do you make of the stories that are in the papers today where in the Mail it claims that, you know, we are now spending £1 billion a day on benefits, on the welfare bill, and coupled with that, plans by Andy Burnham and Foreign Secretary Ed Miliband to increase foreign aid budgets. I mean, what do you make of that?
Well, I worked for 26 years in an oil refinery, and I turned basically crude oil into gasoline and diesel, and the hoops we had to jump through were unbelievable. But 85% of every barrel went in some kind of tax, duty, or VAT. You know, and when you get a government that says, well, we want to do away with fossil fuels, we want to do away, I mean, I'm not kidding you, right? You look at how many cars there are on the road and lorries and how few of them are EVs, right? So we're still mightily dependent on fossil fuels. And for a government to turn around and say, oh, we want to do away with net zero, we want to, bring in net zero. Well, I'm sorry, but this is a complete and utter act of lunacy. Why is it? How is it that America, one of the biggest economic country in the world, right, can operate with a quarter of the fuel costs that we have to endure through gas and electricity companies and tax, and they are prospering? You know, can't we look at their model? You know, can't we just say, you know, hang on a second, look, we're getting it wrong.
Well, the one thing they've got going for them, you're absolutely right, the one thing the US have got going for it is that they actually generate growth, that actually they have market conditions to allow people to go and want to set up a business there, that they're not going to be taxed to the hilt. So it allows the conditions for people to set up a business, to employ more people, to pay those people, and that's how the world goes round. Bob, just before you go, I know you're calling from Clacton-on-Sea, it says in front of me here. What do you make of the prospect of a potential second by-election in Clacton?
I don't think it will happen.
Right.
I really don't. I think people are elected out, if that's a real term.
Yeah. You've had enough of. You've voted about it once a year, I think, whether it's local elections, general elections, this by-election, a referendum.
Look, my slant is, I mean, I've met Nigel a few times, Nigel Farage, and I've had a pint with him or two, and the man is a man of the people. And when and given the last by-election, when the other mainstream parties wouldn't even field a candidate, it showed me something really important. It showed me that how they were running scared. They knew they couldn't win, so they fielded. And I wouldn't, and I'm just speculating, but they fielded a joke candidate with a guy with a dustbin on his head in order to discredit the Reform Party. Well, it didn't work.
Well, old Lord Binface acts on his own accord. I mean, he's done many by-elections and the like. But just in a word, because we've got to go to a break, Bob, and I've really enjoyed the call. You weren't entertained by the prospect of having an MP that goes around wearing a bin on his head.
I'm laughing at it now.
Not for you, and not for many people of Clacton, obviously, because Nigel Farage obviously won that by-election. Bob in Clacton-on-Sea, thank you so much for your call. Keep them all coming in. 0344 499 1000. We'll go to a little break because we'll be talking to Mike Neville, retired Scotland Yard Detective Chief Inspector. Again, a man who knows common sense, no bounds. This is Charlie Rowley in for Mark Dolan at Weekend Breakfast. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Let's go to my next guest now, former Detective Chief Inspector Mike Neville, a man who is a friend of this show, who speaks the truth. He speaks common sense no end. I know, having spoken to him many times. Mike, thank you so much for joining me this morning here on Talk. Are you well?
Good morning, Charlie. Good morning.
Mike, we've been talking about loads of stories this morning, not least of all the benefits bill going up, that we've been talking about the freebies that migrants get when they come into the country compared to what a family would have to pay this summer to take their family out to go and see a show at the theatre or go to their local swimming pools. We've also been talking about an increase in foreign aid. But parking all of that aside, there are a number of stories doing the rounds still that the Prime Minister should be getting to grips with, and the Home Secretary, which is about the small boats crossings, which is about the number of people that come into this country and seemingly commit the most heinous crimes, and yet we cannot seem to be able to deport them or get rid of them in any way, shape or form. The latest I just want to pick your brains on was a news story that I saw last night where the French seem to be stepping up, supposedly, their stopping of these small boats crossings. There was footage last night released of French authorities slashing some of those dingings, and the government very keen to point out that those small boat crossings are down this time compared to last, and deportations are up. However, that doesn't seem to stop the number of crimes taking place in this country if those people reach our shores.
No, absolutely. And I just don't understand. There doesn't seem to be much of a will to do anything about this. If there was me in charge of this, I would have drones all over the channel. I would have helicopters over the channel. I would be spotting those boats before they even came. I would have Royal Marines in rigid raiders to, get up to, and have frogmen. You could actually be in the water, be deployed, and then swim to the shore and slash the boats before. I wouldn't rely on the French at all. What we need to see from politicians is a will to stop this. And they do a few minor things to sort of throw some, so a few coins before the masses and say, look, we've done something. But they're doing very little, and there's very little will to do it. The biggest thing that doesn't exist is the desire to stop this.
But why do you think that is, Mike? I mean, you've sent out there a couple of ideas that, we haven't even heard from the government or from politicians by the sounds of things. More drones patrolling the space, more action by the UK government. I mean, why is the UK government, all our civil servants and those in the Home Office, why are they not coming up with these ideas?
Because they have a dream and they have a religion, and the religion, as well as all the net zero stuff, includes multiculturalism. And to them, these people who are crossing, they're victims, they're fleeing war. They actually believe this nonsense with the belief of the Pope 500 years ago, who believed that the Earth was the centre of the universe. No matter how much evidence you could produce to him, they would still believe their thing. You see, their exasperation, their disbelief about this leaflet. They can't believe that, migrants have been told not to rape people. And they have a dream of this multicultural society, and it will not stop. They cannot help themselves. And you see it in their language. So when you had Starmer saying, smash the gangs, that's because they think the people driving the boat is a criminal, but the people in the boat are some kind of victims fleeing. And until we change that attitude at the top and with the establishment, the civil service, then this will continue, I'm sorry to say.
Well, the two things in that I just want to sort of probe you on. First of all, as a former Scotland Yard Detective Chief Inspector, you would be tasked with going after these criminals, the people that commit the most heinous of crimes. So we're talking about the rape and sexual abuse that we seemingly hear time and time again from men that have come from a different country, that have a different culture, though I don't believe that that is any justification whatsoever, but there you go. They come into the country, they commit these crimes. You would be having to go after these monsters, to put it mildly, on a Saturday morning. How do you feel as a former DCI when you then see the Home Office, the people that are supposed to have your back as a police officer, sending out those leaflets, handing out those pamphlets to those men that come over into our shores to politely say, by the way, guys, don't rape our women?
Well, it's quite incredible, isn't it? It's hard enough catching our own sex offenders, but when you've got people coming into the country you don't know who they are, there's no DNA record, there's no photographs, there's no fingerprints on record. If they're homegrown sex offenders, then you have all those things, and then the police are much more likely to be able to catch them. But we've just got people coming here who we know nothing about, who are absolutely desperate. How do you trace them? You're a British-born rapist or sex offender will have some kind of record, will have some kind of home that that you can try and trace them, some associates you can approach. But with these people, who are they? Where are they going to live? It almost makes the job of the police officer investigating it impossible. It's an absolute disgrace.
I mean, the second question I wanted to ask, just in your view, because there will be some people, I believe, who do take that crossing. It is a minority number of people, by the way, who I think take that crossing, who are in genuine need of asylum. And I say that maybe as someone, I'm trying to put forward an example. Maybe if you are a young man that might be gay, and where it's not appropriate to be gay, and maybe in a Muslim country or a hard-practicing Muslim country, and you actually want to get to the UK because we are very liberal and we're very open, and you can get married and have all the rights. But the point I was going to make, I know a lot of people then claim that they're gay to get into the country, but you can't differentiate between the two. So my question to you, Mike, was just, do we then have to be quite hard about this and say, well, I'm terribly sorry, even if you are seeking refuge in the UK from a country that doesn't allow you to be yourself, but we simply in the UK cannot take you?
Well, I don't understand the question, because these people aren't coming from this place. They're coming from France. And the last time I looked at France, it was perfectly acceptable to be homosexual in France. So that argument falls apart. I mean, I'm afraid you've been corrupted by Theresa May as we've discussed this uni-party. You is coming out here, Charlie. You want to be very careful.
My job is only to ask the questions and try and provide a bit of balance every now and again.
I know you're trying to. I mean, it's very hard to justify it. I know you're trying your best to, come up with good questions about this, but it is outrageous, isn't it? These people, there is no reason to flee from France, other than Italy or Spain or wherever. These are democratic Western societies where people are, treated fairly. They're treated as, I would suggest, the laws are as liberal as the UK. So there's absolutely no need. The reason they come here is because they'll know they're not living in a tent in France. They're living in a 3 or 4 star hotel with bed and board paid for, a free phone, and money to spend down the bookmakers.
And if you listen to Andy Burnham, you could be moved out of a hotel, redistributed to somewhere that is a nice middle-class area. So not much of a deterrent there. That's something that he said last week. Again, a bit of a misstep, I think, from the Prime Minister. Mike Neville, we've got to leave it there, only because of time reasons. It's me running over. But a pleasure, as always, to talk to you. And we'll have another conversation another time about Mrs May. I'm sure, I don't think she was all that bad. But, I know we'll disagree on that. But, Mike, as ever, great to talk to you. Let me know what you think about what we were just talking about there with Mike Neville, former Detective Chief Inspector from Scotland Yard. 0344 499 1000. We'll get all your calls and texts read out after this break. This is Charlie Rowley, sitting in for Mark Dolan at Weekend Breakfast. This is Talk.
There's 2 big pull factors. One is that they speak the English language, because we spent a couple of centuries going around the world colonising it and teaching everyone our language.
There's the reason that the Labour Party will forever allow people to come to this country.
They've got a network of people that speak our language, and the other is that there is a black economy.
Sam, you're not telling me a majority of migrants who come to this country can speak English, are you?
A lot of them come because they feel they can work better in the English language than they can in many of the European languages.
Explain to me then why they don't bring their wives and children.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning to you. This is Charlie Rowley in for Mark Dolan on the Weekend Breakfast here at the home of Common Sense. Just want to read a couple of your texts out that have come through. Charlie, when I pay tax in other countries, I get a great service. They actively help to reduce your bill. In Switzerland, it is paid locally, and you can see the results in your area. And you get relief on all your debt or spending where you don't take from the state, i.e. through a private insurance or a pension. Brilliant point there, Rich, in terms of Switzerland. And I think that might be what what Andy Burnham is trying to do to allow mayors locally to have a share of income tax to spend in their local areas. However, we're not in the same situation of growth. We're not in the same situation in terms of the debt burden that we have in our country. Let's see if that works. But thank you so much for that. Good morning, Charlie. So those who break into our country not only get a red carpet welcome and a free house, getting social workers to help them claim personal independence payments, they also get massive discounts to go to top tourist attractions, where they get to smile pitifully on the alarm clock Brits who struggle to save enough to pay for a burger and meal for their families. Those who agreed to this scheme make me sick to my very core. Traitors. That's from Chris in Cardiff. And Chris, I think a lot of people would feel that sentiment, because that's kind of the conversation that we're having today. We've got a benefits bill that is at £1 billion a day. We've got the government thinking about increasing spending on foreign aid, which had been cut from 0.7% to 0.5% to 0.3% under Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves, maybe one of the only good things that they did. But it's now thought it could be going back up to 0.7% of GDP. Should we be spending money on foreign aid? And we've got the freebies farce, as migrants are offered £340 worth of days out of popular attractions for just a mere 30 quid. Two-tier Britain in full flow. Let me know what you think. We're asking the question, what would you do if you were Chancellor of the Exchequer today? Would you cut all of those things? Are you happy to pay more tax? 0344 499 1000. And let's have a conversation on the home of common sense. But turning to the hard right. Not politically, but it's a handbrake turn to talk about something which I know gets a lot of people exercised. And it is, of course, a story that is on a lot of the front pages today. It is the return of Harry and Meghan to the UK. Now, before you switch for the dial to either turn off or turn up on this debate, you might be one of three people. You might be someone who absolutely welcomes them with open arms. I think it's great for Harry and Meghan to be returned to the UK, for Harry to reconcile his differences with his dad, a king that's not very well. You might be in the camp that absolutely loathes Meghan Markle and the return and all that Harry and Meghan have done to destroy the royal family. Or you might be, I think, like the majority of Brits and myself these days, where you simply don't care. But the question is, whatever you feel about them, why do they keep appearing on our national newspapers? Why are they so important in terms of media coverage? Why do they get not just front pages, but pages 2, pages 3, pages 4? Our national newspapers are filled with them. Well, the one man that can answer all of those questions and dissect everything that is going on in the world of Meghan and Harry, it's Rupert Bell, Talk's royal correspondent, who, I'm delighted to say, joins me now. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning. Good morning, Charlie. Yeah. Yes, this whole story, let's just put it why we're fascinated by it. It's the soap opera element. It's the family division element. It's William and Harry not speaking, the element of Shakespearean tragedy, perhaps, maybe to overhype it a bit, but that's part of the fascination, because it is a, whether we like it or not, there is a degree of, well, what the best thing I can say about it is that Harry and Meghan just create headlines for who they are. They love it. They like the fact that they create this storm because they believe they are right all the time. That's why we had no apology. That's why Harry has been so outspoken in his criticism, whether it be for his Netflix series, whether it be in his book. Yet here he is coming back, and that, with all that criticism that he's been levelling at the royal family and Britain, here he is rushing back. So that adds to, well, what the heck's going on? It feels a very hypocritical decision by Harry and Meghan to suddenly come running back to the country that they've spent the last 6 years dissing. But they need the royal family. They need it for their brand, because in America, they're a bit of a busted flush, I would suggest.
Well, there's a lot of people that have lots of different theories. You know, one is that obviously Harry might want to reconcile with his dad. You know, he's obviously suffering, the king, he's obviously suffering from cancer. Do they just want a better education for their kids? Is it for tax purposes? They're at that sort of 6-year rule where all of their income, global income, is now unable to be taxed by HMRC, it seems to me, is the long and short of it. Do those stories stack up, or is this just, you think that, you know, Harry and Meghan need to come back, they need the publicity in order to get, I don't know, another Netflix series, more book deals and the like?
Well, if what we're reading is she looks like she might be appearing in The Gentleman, a Netflix series, going back to her acting roots. If it's the case, very clever move by Guy Ritchie, because certainly it will create added interest in the series, whether to see her return. It's quite a high-profile series. Also, they film it at Badminton, and there's rumours, of course, which is near where the King lives. Maybe they're looking for a house in that area, because a lot of the filming is done at Badminton. So if that does come around, then maybe that's why they're talking of the Cotswold return. But they do need the brand. It's about being British, you know, the sort of, they say, the royal sophistication, yet they are not part of it. For Harry, he feels like a rudderless man in America. He hasn't got a sense of purpose. He's got nothing that he can get his teeth into, whereas at least Meghan, whether you think the products are any good, she does have her as ever brand. But for Harry, what's he got? He hasn't been able to create any new business. So he basically wants to sort of regroup and go back to the Invictus Games, some of the charities that he's still involved in. But the trouble is, that will still look like he's doing the royal stuff. And the royal family don't want this sort of half in, half out sort of way of operating. You're either in or you're out. But unfortunately, that's going to be a very difficult thing in the eyes of the British public, because if he turns up, say, at Well Child, it's the Duke of Sussex turning up, well, it's almost a quasi-royal visit.
Well, just on that, you're absolutely right. The half in, half out, which obviously, you know, the Queen didn't want to have, the late Queen didn't want that kind of situation going on. And it seems, but, you know, we'll have to see how it plays out. King Charles and certainly William, I imagine, would want to hold that line. It's difficult for Meghan, isn't it? I mean, I'm not a huge fan, I have to say, but I'll park my own personal views aside. But when she, you know, coming back to the UK, I mean, there will be two schools of thought. It is the half in, half out approach where people would say, look, actually, they just need to, if they're coming back to the UK, if it's for education for their kids, they just need to take a step back and not be seen and just, you know, fade into the background like everybody else. You're not working royals anymore. But there'll be other people who say, well, actually, you know, if she wants to be in the UK, she's got to work, she's entitled to a job, and she's an actress, therefore she should be going for these kinds of roles that might be on offer by Guy Ritchie in Netflix. Therefore, we will see her, if this is true, and if this does come to pass, she will be all over our television screens. You know, can she win in this debate if people say, look, you know, take a back step, you know, we don't want to see you in the public eye, but we will see her publicly as an actress? It's difficult for her, isn't it?
Yeah, but I don't really have a problem. If she wants to work and she is an actress, she's now a private citizen in that respect, so she's not being shackled by being in the royal family, where if she was a working royal, this wouldn't be able to happen. But now, 6 years she's been separated in terms of the royal role. So I don't have a problem with it, because that's actually her doing what she did before she met Harry. So I don't really have a problem. It's actually very good publicity, I'm sure, for the gentleman. There will be lots of people hoping that she's not particularly good at it, and I'm sure there'll be lots of people saying, well, let's get back to what she did, because she was in Suits and she did all right in that, and so why not? So I don't have a problem with that. I just have the problem with the fact that suddenly she now wants to set up camp back in this country that she clearly doesn't have much of a love affair on a day-to-day basis. But she needs the brand and needs that sort of association to show, look, I'm still part of being with the royal family, although not necessarily working for it. Look, I'm now back on track with the king and all these sorts of things. So that's what she's looking for. And Harry, on the other hand, I don't know what the conversations were like when they suddenly said, right, let's move back to Britain. Was it an easy decision? I don't know. But they clearly have taken some time over it, because if you're wanting to look for schools and everything and you're up sticks, a young family, it's not something that can happen overnight. So they've clearly been planning this for some time.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Rupert. And it seems to me that the umbrage that is afforded to the royal, the couple, particularly Meghan, is the hypocrisies of it all. It's the idea that, Harry said last year in an interview, I can't see us returning to Britain at all. She, in an interview with Oprah, talked us down. Said how terrible it was, how the royal family was effectively racist, and she didn't want to bring up her kids there. And now they seem to be returning all happy families. So I think it's the hypocrisies that really, it certainly gets me anyway, and I'm sure it gets a lot of our listeners. But they're coming back if they come back as sort of non-working royals and private citizens to a degree, there's always that question around security. And this is one that Harry has tried and again to get the RAVEC committee, that's the Royal and VIP Executive Committee, to afford him police protection, armed protection at UK taxpayer expenses. The committee are apparently now looking at this again. Do you think because Harry, who is related, obviously, son of the king, should he get police protection?
I do think he should have some. What the issue is, the level of protection that he wants. He wants the all belts, all singing, all dancing protection, because that enhances their image to some extent. Yet, you can look at other members of the royal family who go about their business in a very low-key way. Yes, there will be some level of protection, and that's what he should be aiming for. There is talk that he's been talking to the Home Secretary to try and see if she can be persuaded to help fund. But I do think that will stick in the minds of many people that why are they taking money from us for their security? Look, he's got financial problems. Look, the court case, the huge lawyers' bill that has been presented to them. I think some of it is covered by insurance. They've got to cough up $9 million in a week, and then there's talk that the final bill for the people in the claimants in that court case could get up to 35 million. And he's one of the 7, so he will be expected to fund some of that as well. So he's got financial problems. If we're led to believe, if it goes against them to that level, he will be expected to pay some significant legal fees as well. And that's why he's probably saying, I need security, but I also want to get that funded. But that, I think, will be a difficult thing to get the full-blown security whilst he is a private citizen now, not a working member of the royal family.
Yeah, well, thank you, Rupert. He's got a lot on his plate. That was Rupert Bell there, Talk Royal correspondent. Let me know what you think about that. We'll be taking all of your calls and texts after this break. This is Charlie Rowley at the home of Common Sense. This is Talk.
Secretary has brought forward a very rigorous plan in relation to this, and let's remember, of course, the numbers can fluctuate, but overall boat crossings are down quite significantly year on year, so that does suggest that the plan is working.
We've just witnessed drone footage of the French authorities handing out life jackets to illegal immigrants and then waving them goodbye as they head on their way towards the UK. So the French are actively helping and facilitating illegal immigration. In addition to that, the French forces did nothing to stop that huge migrant dinghy. In fact, the dinghy came out, then it went back to the beach to pick up even more illegal immigrants and then departed for a second time. During all of that, the French did nothing, and they even handed out life jackets and waved goodbye as these illegal immigrants head towards the UK. I think that's terrible. I mean that anyone who did cross the channel and arrive in Dover could be immediately deported within around about a week.
Give that a second, he's just dragging a line by the look of it.
Is that a warning shot towards us? I don't know.
Well, I was trying to work
Okay. The French officers could clearly see we were conducting an interview on the back of the fishing boat. They sailed extremely close to us and started firing gunshots, 11 live rounds. We could see the bullets hitting the water behind our boat. They weren't firing before their approach. They weren't firing afterwards. There was no notification of any kind of training exercise. So it did seem to me to be an effort to intimidate us.
The thing that I find, and I should say alarm clock Brits find so frustrating, Chris, and this is why I wanted you on this morning. Yesterday, finally, the unelected Messiah of Manchester stood up and said, to consummate fury from most of us, that Labour's plan to stop dinghy migrants is working. This, Chris, despite the fact that 1,000 illegal migrants have still come into this country in the last 9 days since he became Prime Minister.
Je suis un député dans le Parlement du Royaume-Uni. Why have you allowed the migrants into the water? Why haven't you stopped them?
Our order is to let them go like that.
Your order is to let them go?
We just have to say to them, don't do that, it's dangerous.
So your orders are not to intervene?
We have to protect them.
Well, there's also protecting the border as well.
Secretary has brought forward a very rigorous plan in relation to this, and let's remember, of course, the numbers can fluctuate, but overall boat crossings are down quite significantly year on year, so that does suggest that the plan is working.
Just witnessed
across the UK on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very warm morning to you. This is Charlie Rowley sitting in for Mark Dolan here at the home of common sense, Talk TV. And what a delight it is to be filling in on this great sunny weekend, Saturday, the 22nd of August. It's been a pleasure to have your company over the last 2 hours. We've been talking about all things that are across our front pages of the national news media, and some brilliant stories inside the front pages, including £1 billion a day, I should say, a staggering sum spent on our benefits bill that is giving Chancellor John Healey a budget headache. We're asking the question this morning, what would you do if you were the Chancellor of the Exchequer? Would you cut the benefits bill? Would you cut or increase foreign aid? A rumoured plan being set up, hatched by Andy Burnham, Prime Minister, and Foreign Secretary Ed Miliband, a plot to increase foreign aid spending by £13 billion. That means more taxes, more spending, more borrowing, and ultimately more debt. But do you think it's the right thing to do? Do you think spending more money on foreign aid will stop some of the migration pull that we're seeing on our shores? 0344 499 1000, or text the word TALK to 87222, or you can follow us and send us a message on X. Just follow us at TalkTV, followed by your message. You can also send a voice note which we love to play out here on our national news channel. Let me know what you think. This show is nothing if it isn't without you, the great listeners, the great callers, the great viewers of Talk TV. So let us know. 0344 499 1000. This is the home of common sense. This is Talk Breakfast. And a very good morning to you, as I say. It is a brilliant morning. The sun has come up across London City. I can see it, or I could see it, until the banner got shut down. But there we are. These are the kind of conditions I've been working in this morning. It's a delight to have your company this morning. I'm sitting in for Mark Dolan. He's having a well-deserved break. And I just want to read out some of the messages that we've had coming in, because they're coming in thick and fast. And we've got a number of callers that we've got to get through a little bit later on. And I promise we will get through as many as we possibly can. But Stephen from London says, Charlie, of all taxes we pay, that includes taxes we pay when we buy something, not just tax from our wages, it's gone up 75% in the last 40 years. That's why we feel poorer, nothing seems to get done. done. We earn enough. It's just that our income is valueless. I have to say, with the increased inflation as well, that went up last week. You know, our wages don't seem to be going up. Inflation going up, it means things cost more. Life and our cost of living is more expensive. That is having a real impact on hard-working Brits, particularly alarm clock Brits that wake up every morning, work hard, play by the rules, do the right thing, pay their taxes, and of course, are listeners to Talk. Good morning, Charlie. Oh, firstly, you're doing a great job this morning. Thank you. Andy from Bournemouth, you can call again. He says, if I was Chancellor, the first thing I would fund is our armed forces. They need to be funded properly and then cancel funding for Number 10 North. Now, this is the second person that's got in touch to talk about Number 10 North. Do you think that's just a big gimmick? A lot of money may be being spent up there, but is the Prime Minister just you know, clinging on to that low-hanging fruit, you know, introducing Number 10 North, trying to get power out of London into Manchester and northern cities that feel that they've been left behind for far too long? Is it the banning of our barbecues, outside barbecues, just because there's a bit of hot weather outside, as if we didn't know not to do that in the first place, Prime Minister? Is it just capping bus fares at £2 when they were capped already at £3? These are low-hanging fruits, I suppose, for the Prime Minister to flood the media landscape, to get his name out there, to look busy, effectively, when he's not taking control of the big decisions, like getting our welfare bill under control, like stopping the small boats crisis, like not getting our economy growing to fund things like his pet projects, like maybe foreign aid. But let me know what you think. What would you do if you were the Chancellor of the Exchequer? 0344 499 1000. Well, I'm delighted at this fine hour to be talking through those stories and more with the brilliant journalist and friend of mine, Linda Jubilee, who joins me now. Linda, hello.
Hello, Charlie. How are you?
All the better for seeing you on this fine Saturday morning at Weekend Breakfast.
Yeah, you're right. It's beautiful morning as well. It's a little bit crisp, which is just how we like it.
Do you know, I was a little bit worried this morning as well. It's funny you should say that, because I was at Arsenal last night. We will be talking sport a little bit later on, more than just Arsenal. We've got someone from Sun Sport coming in. But I was there last night. It was their opening game of this season, having won the championship last year. And I thought it was actually quite mild. I thought it was actually quite nice outside. And I turned up in just a normal shirt, work shirt. And that was about it. I mean, I was wearing trousers as well, and shoes, but, you know what I mean. And I was freezing by the end of it. The sun set down. There was a bit of... It was fresh, and I was shivering, and I thought by the time I got home, I thought, oh, no, I'm going to be completely run down for today. But
Can I just say, it always happens at this time of year, and the reason I remember it is because my eldest son was born on the 25th of August. I went into hospital, and it was a really balmy, lovely, warm summer. I came out 4 days later, and autumn had arrived. So I have a deep emotional bond to this time of year.
It is upon us. I mean, it seems a huge while ago when that alert sort of got sent out telling us not to have an outdoor barbecue because it was so hot outside. Will we miss the hot weather? Who knows? Let's talk about some of the top stories of the day that we're talking about here on Talk. Loads of people getting in touch about the story, particularly in the Mail, that we are now seemingly spending £1 billion a day, a staggering sum spent on benefits that's really giving Chancellor John Healey a bit of a headache. What do you make of this? Because there's two sides to this story where people who do need to rely on benefits, they should be able to access them. We all know someone that might have fallen on hard times. But will this government really get a grip on this budget benefits bill?
Well, I actually don't think that John Healey is going to have any choice, because he has a razor-fine margin of what's called headroom, which leaves him with very little opportunity to manoeuvre. And what we do know is he has really critical points in order to stabilise the economy and stabilise our lives, if you like. If we think he had a poison chalice before when he was Secretary of Defence, and let's remember, he resigned because he did not have enough money to defend the realm, he has now moved across to be Chancellor of the Exchequer, and he has three big concerns, as well as immigration. He has housing, social care reform, and another big area of spending as well, which is defence, which he knows all about. Now, he cannot fund those areas unless he does a couple of things, and he has very few options. So we all know that he can cut benefits, he can increase borrowing, and he can bring in tax cuts. But there's very little manoeuvre apart from that. And some or all of these measures, I believe, will have to come in the autumn budget.
And do you think, I mean, look, people speculate about budgets all the time and, try and make a case. And Liz Truss, we were talking about Liz Truss earlier on, a caller sort of said that she agreed entirely with Liz Truss's budget of cutting taxes, cutting spending, and we had a conversation about that. Do you think that the public will be able to stomach tax rises to fund some of the public services that you're talking about?
Well, I actually believe that push comes to shove, the public may not have a choice about this because we simply can't go on spending at the rate at which we're spending. We've got a really disastrous situation, a perfect storm, if you like, where you have a growing number of so-called NEETs, those are people who are not in employment, training, etc., and you have a growing elderly population, which is highly dependent on other benefits as well. They do earn some tax, but they don't earn to send to the exchequer, but they aren't the big middle band of taxpayers from which we derive our revenue. So we won't have very much choice about what we do here, and we will have to bring in some cuts. You rightly point out that benefits, some people really need benefits. I mean, there are people with very, very serious disabilities out there who cannot work. There are other people who need the support of a PIP when they have a severe disability. But we have seen that those benefits, particularly PIP, have grown for a number of people who have anxiety disorders, where the actual cure or a partial cure for that would be to get out and to get to work. So none of this is going to be easy. We are a mature economy, and that brings with it many problems as well as benefits. But we are going to have to get used to the idea that we are going to have a couple, at least, of very hard years ahead of us.
Look, I think that's absolutely right. Look, we say it all the time here, and I know when I sit on the other side of the desk here on a Wednesday morning with Jeremy Carl, who constantly says, look, if people are in genuine need of benefits, then they should be able to access them. We all know someone that's fallen on hard times. We all know someone that might have needed a little bit of a hand up just to get over through a rough patch, but then to be able to get back on their feet and to be able to make the contribution that we know that they are able to make. But people that cheat the system, people that flagrantly break the rules to sponge off hard-working Brits, alarm clock Brits, is a disgrace. And what will incense people even more who go out and, as I say, play by the rules, do the right thing, put in all the hours, whether it's Monday to Friday or whether it's on a fine Saturday morning or Sunday, people working 2 or 3 jobs, they will be outraged, won't they, Linda, when they learn again in The Sun today that there is a freebies fast in our country where migrants who have come over into the UK are now able to have days out to theatres, swimming pools, botanic gardens, museums and the like at a fraction of the cost, about 90% reduction compared to what a normal family in the UK would have to pay.
I think that's precisely the point. Apart from the money that's actually being spent on this, you've got, when you are going to have to try and build an argument and persuade people to get behind some pretty tough measures, you can't deliver this kind of thing without expecting it to be very, very unpopular, who are working very hard, who may have 2, perhaps 3 jobs in order to keep their families on track. It's simply not great, just on a level of the optics. Never mind how much money is being spent. And actually, as they say at one particular supermarket, every little helps. Every little economy we bring in right now will make a difference to how we move forward. We simply have to get economic momentum going within the terms of this government, because that, in the end, will give you some latitude and some bigger headroom when it comes to budgets yet to come.
Well, look, you're leading me on into a nice sort of thread here. But just to put it into perspective into the freebies fast that we're talking about in the Sun newspaper, there were 21 attractions that were listed, that were identified, that if you took your family, so if you've got a kid over the summer holidays, you want to take them over that 6 weeks period, you've got 21 fun things to go to the theatre, to museums, to take them swimming. The total cost of those 21 days out would normally cost a typical family about £340 per person. So that's per ticket for 21 attractions, 340 quid. If you go to those same 21 attractions, but you're a migrant that's been given an illegal immigrant that's been that's entered the country that is still waiting to be processed, they claim to be processed, but they're given a specific card by the Home Office, that would have cost them 30 quid. That's 2 pints, effectively, in London.
Yeah.
That is nothing. That just screams two-tier Britain, doesn't it, Linda?
Yeah, and I think I'm right in remembering this. In one hideous rape case recently, one of the migrants, the perpetrator, after the awful crime he committed, went out and used that card to buy some drinks. I mean, we cannot keep going this way. I know it sounds unpleasant that you have to be very hard on people, but the fact of the matter is, right across the board, we are all in a very bad position at the moment. It's 5 to midnight, and we need to move forward and build that economic momentum. Otherwise, we are going to have very, very severe problems going forward.
I just wanted to get your take on two very quick things. First of all, the rumours that we're hearing that there could be an increase in the foreign aid spending. Now, the school of thought is that if you spend more money in other countries, that prevents the pull factor of people maybe leaving those countries and coming into the UK in the first place. But you mentioned a rape case. I just want to get your take as well, that if people then come into the country through illegal migration, what did you feel and think when you'd heard and then saw that the Home Office had produced these pamphlets and leaflets to hand out to men that are coming on our shores that effectively say, by the way, guys, don't rape our women? What kind of state do you think that the country is now in, where the Home Office, that should be defending our borders, protecting our citizens, are handing out leaflets and pamphlets of that kind?
That is so ridiculous and disingenuous and unrealistic. The fact of the matter is that you cannot change someone's mindset if they have developed a certain outlook, often over decades, in a culture that has existed for hundreds of years. It is very unlikely that you are going to get any kind of traction just by producing a leaflet. I mean, it has been said that the leaflet has been produced so that authorities can wash their hands, that when it comes to court, if a dangerous crime comes to court, that someone can say, oh, well, we warned them, they knew about it, because previously people have used ignorance as protection. But, I mean, I remember my essential law for journalists when I trained, and the fact is, ignorance is no protection against the law in whatever circumstance. So I think, really, printing this leaflet was a cosmetic act and a total waste of time, and very insulting to everyone's intelligence.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. And I did say the other day, I think somebody should put an FOI request to the Home Office just to see how much the design of that leaflet... Exactly, because it's not just, a white sheet of paper with, black text on it. It's got boxes, it's got design, it's got, I can see at the bottom corner of the thing, the right-hand side of one of the pages, there's some sort of, graphic there. So someone has designed this in a particular way in which it's supposed to maybe be a bit friendly, approachable leaflet, one that you just want to pick up at a local GP surgery.
Ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous. Can you imagine some kind of friendly, nice leaflet, and then you start reading it and it warns you that it's wrong to rape? I mean, it's so unrealistic, I can hardly believe it. No. And it's not just the cost of the design. The far bigger cost will be the production cost and the distribution cost.
Yeah, and just finally, for me, Linda, if I can, you talked about it's unpleasant because we're British, we are nice people and we're thoughtful people and we're kind people and we don't want to be too hard on people. But are we at a state now where if you are someone that requires this kind of leaflet, the question should be asked, are you actually fleeing persecution at all? What kind of persecution are you fleeing if you're then coming into the UK, a nice liberal state, where you have to have this kind of leaflet handed to you?
I just can't understand it at all. And I worked with not refugees or asylum seekers, but evacuees. Those people, those women who were airlifted off the tarmac when the Taliban came down and took control. And I must say, to be balanced about this, I met some of the finest women it has ever been my privilege to meet. But some of the men were incredibly difficult with their reactions and their mindset and their values set in concrete. Nothing was going to change how those men thought. I've been personally threatened, and frankly, on one occasion, I was pretty glad that no one had my home address, because I was trying to do good work teaching English conversation and English constitution to a lot of people, because I think that's the right thing to do. But I know perfectly well there were men, and this is inside hotels, who were very aggressive amongst themselves. This is to other women, other Afghan women that they thought had become too westernized inside the hotel. So what do you think they do outside the hotel? We've got to wake up now and realise some of these issues have to be dealt with, and sometimes measures that are not traditionally recognised as being, liberal, will have to be used, because at the moment there is a problem and we need a solution.
Linda, this is the home of common sense, and you speak much of it here on Weekend Breakfast. Thank you so much for joining me, Linda Jubilee there, journalist and friend of the show. After the break, we've got a head-to-head debate that you don't want to miss coming up. This is Charlie Rowley, as I say, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Yusuf is one very, very popular amongst the base, absolutely. And I think one of the reasons he is popular is because he speaks from the hip. He speaks in a language and with an attitude that is shared in pubs up and down the country, but not necessarily in Westminster seminars.
Do you think he gets away with being a loose cannon, whereas Tim Montgomery doesn't? Tim Montgomery gets suspended, see Yusuf gets hugged closer.
There's a big difference. Tim is an ordinary party member. He is not a spokesperson. He is not an elected member. He's not on the board. He literally has no role in the party.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Talk Breakfast with me, Charlie Rowley, sitting in for Mark Dolan on this fine Saturday morning. Let me know what you think about that conversation that I just had with the brilliant Linda Jubilee. 0344 499 1000, or you can text the word TALK to 87222, or you can follow us and send us a message on X at talkTV, followed by your message, and we will get as many calls and messages read out as we can over the next hour and a half. But I'm delighted to say now, joining me in the studio are two of the finest political brains in our country. That's just me and Kane. Kai, you're here too. Good. You're here too. Nice to see you. Good morning, both. You well?
Good morning.
Very good. Well, I was well.
Until
that little jab.
Until that barb on a Saturday morning. Well, let's see if that's riled you up, because we've been talking about a lot of stories this morning. We've been going through all the front pages, but within some of the stories, some of the grinding, I suppose, stories that some of our listeners and viewers find the most irksome, which is a benefits bill. We're learning in the Daily Mail today that the benefits bill could be as much as £1 billion a day. Now, I'll start with you if I can, because the last Labour government under Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves, to offer a little bit of credit, not that much, but a little bit of credit, they did try to bring in about £5 billion worth of savings, but the backbenchers said no. We're now spending more, it seems, day in, day out on things like, PIP payments, on people that have got anxiety, people that have got, ADHD that might not require financial support. I mean, you are a political commentator of the left. Why is this bill getting out of control?
Well, we know that the benefits bill is getting out of control because the rate of people signing on is just going up and up. We had confirmation of that in recent reports, including the Milburn report, which has changed the political mood music, hasn't it, a little bit? But let me just paint you a picture, briefly, of how the welfare U-turn or the welfare snafu in Parliament came to pass. That happened at a time when the Keir Starmer government was uniquely this sort of command and control operation from Number 10, right? You had Morgan McSweeney telling MPs to F off and all sorts of stuff. And frankly, they were in a self-rest mood. We knew that. You talked to any Labour MPs back then, they were totally furious at the way they were being treated. And so, in addition to that, the 2 months prior to the welfare debate in Parliament, there were 2 U-turns by the Keir Starmer government. Those were sort of some of the first U-turns that had happened. If you recall, there weren't that many U-turns right at the start. And so that came at a time when they felt rebellious. They knew that they could get away with forcing the government to back down. And you didn't have a government that was willing to make a political argument and to sell a message as to why they need to put these measures through or other measures. Now, Burnham is uniquely capable of spinning that message, of making a case, and the mood music has changed because these reports by Stephen Timms and Alan Milburn have come out, have spelt out in such clear way how the issue that we have and the way to get the benefits bill down is going to happen, I'm telling you.
You think it is? Oh, it is going to come down, you think?
100%. 100%.
Really?
Yeah, because I think Labour MPs, they're not stupid. They know.
Well, hang
come on. Even you wouldn't say that, Kate.
I might beg to differ slightly on that.
I was going to say, Kate, I'm flabbergasted. I'm absolutely flabbergasted. You honestly think that the welfare bill is going to come down under this Labour government?
Of course it is, because it has to.
Well, it has to, but will it?
It has to. I mean, so does, net migration and everything else, but I doubt that's going to happen either. However, what you've sort of just said, Kai, is that if you ask Labour MPs nicely, you treat them nicely, you say, oh, you're doing a great job, but can you just basically put aside everything that you believe in your heart of hearts as a socialist and get rid of a load of benefits that, quite frankly, your voter base wants you to keep and that you fundamentally believe in? They're just not going to do it. Why is it that Andy Burnham, is it just because he's, from the north and he can, sweet-talk them into whatever he wants? If he can, then fantastic. But I just don't think that's going to happen at all.
Sorry. The Labour Party does not believe in handing out freebies for people and denying them the dignity that comes and the purpose that comes from a life working and fulfilling some sort of purpose, right? So I do not accept that characterisation. But on the voter-based question, it's an interesting question, right? The idea that Labour voters are benefit scroungers and
No, I didn't say that.
Okay,
I did not say that.
Fine, that's my characterisation. But
actually, they're most likely people in Islington who believe that everyone needs to be on benefits, quite frankly.
Indeed. But what about your voters? What about Reform voters?
Yeah.
If you look at there was some analysis by Fraser Nelson, wasn't there, this week?
What does that mean? So Reform voters are all benefit scroungers, are you trying to say that?
Well, actually, it's close to the truth than you might expect, and it's actually going to cause you big issues when you look at how the Reform Party...
People want to get back into work, people want to be able to keep more of the money they earn, and by doing that is actually getting into jobs, getting into well-paid jobs, and unfortunately, what the Labour Party have done, have taxed business to the hilt, so now people can't actually get jobs, young people can't get jobs because it's so expensive for employers to actually employ them. This is the problem, is it's all chicken and egg, but no one understands in the Labour Party that you actually have to allow business to flourish so that you actually have a strong economy and you're able to get people into work so they can provide for themselves.
So that's a brilliant point. That's about the economy as a whole. But we seem to be spending a lot on benefits, or the welfare bill going up. We're also now spending, or could be spending, up to 0.7% again on foreign aid. That's another topic that we've been reading about in the papers. A plan between Andy Burnham and Ed Miliband, a plot to spend an additional £13 billion that we don't have. This is why I find it so extraordinary. So we've got the benefits bill going up. We've now got a commitment potentially of spending £13 billion on foreign aid. We need to spend more on defence, that the Labour government have pledged that it would do. Where is all this coming from, Kai?
The money?
Yes.
Well, I hope we find out in the budget.
Yeah,
no, Charlie, I'm joking.
Well, but that's the challenge that the Chancellor's got to make. He's got to make the numbers add up, but it's going to be tax rises, isn't it?
Well, look, I think it's going to be... There are going to be, no doubt, some difficult choices in the autumn budget.
What does that
Not
mean?
Least
What does that... Hold on. What does that mean?
I'll try to get to it. What I think is going to... So on the foreign aid thing, right, I was with a Labour MP as this story broke.
I'm so sorry.
He went... It was actually a great night, Charlie. You would have loved it. And he said, that is total nonsense. And as always with the papers these days, you have to really look into... You have to look at, okay, unnamed sources say that he is privately committed to. Don't believe it for a second. You can't even believe what politicians say that they'll do in public, let alone privately. So, number one, pinch of salt on the foreign aid. I think he may spell out a commitment to do it over 10 years, perhaps, but I don't think that's going to happen. As to what he's going to do, well, clearly, this is why I think the impetus is there to bring down the benefits bill in some way, because those are the choices that he has to litigate between, aren't they? You know, are you going to take away from the NHS, or are you going to take away from, I don't know, any number of other departments that are going to be vying for more money? I think there is a chance that he brings in tax rises, but I hope that he does that in a way that is proportionate. There are some, for instance, some tax rises that Dan Needle has spelled out that could bring in a few extra billion for the Treasury to get to that kind of number.
Perhaps there might be tax rises.
Kane, those scroungers that Kai was just talking about, those reform voters, those benefit scroungers, as he characterised them, you know, can look forward to more tax rises, can they?
Well, I mean, the entire country can, because, quite frankly, the idea that Labour are not going to increase taxes is for the birds. I mean, they do it every single time. Literally, it's in their DNA to raise taxes, so let's not be surprised that they do it, guys. I mean, I think that the interesting thing is that, you know, the Resolution Foundation has said that, you know, the fiscal headroom has shrunk to 8 billion. And these Labour MPs are calling for 13 billion to be extra to be spent on foreign aid. Now, you may be right that they might not do it because, quite frankly, practically, it's not going to work. So maybe, you know, sound heads will prevail. However, politically, you've got to look at the politics of this, the makeup of Parliament. His Labour MPs who backed, the left-wing Labour MPs who backed Andy Burnham, he owes them, quite frankly, are going to be pushing for this sort of thing very, very heavily. So he's got to try and manage that and mitigate the political risk of not doing these things as well. So that's the problem that he faces, is if he doesn't actually increase the foreign aid budget, his left-wing Labour MPs, they're going to screw him probably on welfare.
Well, a bit of a headache for the Chancellor and the Prime Minister. Lots of decisions that they've got to make in the budget coming up. That's the view of Kai and Kane. More from them after the break. This is Charlie Rowley, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back and a very good morning to you. This is Charlie Rowley at the home of common sense. Not only am I the home of common sense, it's been pointed out to me that I've been saying, but I think that's absolutely true. I share that title, I think, with Linda Jubilee. We've been asking this morning, what would you do if you were the Chancellor of the Exchequer? I've just got a couple of messages here. Charlie, if I was Chancellor, I would cut welfare, scrap net zero, scrap foreign aid, and that would save billions. The only foreign aid that would leave our country would be in the event of a natural disaster like earthquakes. The money saved could go to defence and build prisons. I'd also cut MPs' expenses. They can afford their own expenses out of their salary. That's from Paul in Hamilton. I think a lot of people would agree on cutting foreign aid and the welfare budget and net zero. We get a lot of messages like that. Talk. The NHS could save millions by reusing crutches, wheelchairs, etc. And unopened, unused drugs by having a collection centre, by cracking down on a massive staff theft. I didn't know there was much staff theft within the NHS taking drugs, but there you go. There is a culture of entitlement in this country. That's from Michael. Michael is, I think, absolutely right. That's the question, as I say, we've been asking. What would you do if you were Chancellor? Some answers there. I've got the brilliant Kai Wilshire, former Labour advisor, and Kane Blackwell, political commentator, in the studio for this head-to-head, who were telling me a second ago that they both believe, which is still astounding to me, that the welfare benefits bill will come down. I don't believe it, I have to say, because you also read in the newspapers today about freebies, that a freebies farce that is taking place as migrants that come into this country illegally are offered trips to the theatre, to swimming pools, to museums, to botanic gardens and the like. All of those 21 attractions that were looked at, it would have cost you, as an individual, if you went to those 21 attractions over the summer, £340. If you were a migrant that came into the country illegally and you were given a Home Office supplied access card to these attractions, that would have cost you 30 quid. That is two-tier Britain, isn't it, Kane?
Completely. Completely. But this is the problem with the system. Is Shabana Mahmood or any Home Office minister really sitting there signing this off? Because politically, it's suicide. Why would you do it? But this is the problem with the system, is that you've got civil servants and the entire Home Office, which has been captured by leftist ideologues, wokies, who basically believe that we should be giving migrants this sort of thing, that we should allow them. And lefties will say, well, they need something to do while they're here. They need something to do. You say that they're going out and, you know, sexually abusing people and murdering people. We'll give them something to do. Well, I'll tell you what I'd like to do. I'd like to put them in detained detention centres, ensure that they are not actually able to leave those detention centres, and then send them on their merry way back to their country of origin or a third-party country, which Reform UK has spelled out perfectly what they will do with that, and that's why Reform are doing so well.
What's wrong with that, Kai?
Well, more and more migrants, illegal migrants, are being put in detention centres, as you well know, because Labour is ramping up the building of two, in particular, big detention centres to increase capacity. Yes, they are. And you are right that Shabana Mahmood would be the last person to want a headline like this in the papers. And that these things, lots of these kinds of perverse incentives sit in the system, don't they, in some department somewhere, and nobody ever sees it until an article like this. And it'll stick in the craw with most people who actually can't afford to do some of these things themselves, and suddenly there's a 30 quid all-access pass. Look, I don't think this is what we should be focusing on and spending money on.
But little old Brits like us, we get, you know, a bus fare capped at £2, which was at £3 anyway. We get a little bit of, or businesses get 20% of. It is a 50% reduction, but doesn't that just spell out the ridiculousness of it all? You know, the selling point that the government say we're going to take 50% off. You know, the bus fare cap. It was at £3, it's down to £2. That's not much of a help to people, I would argue, across the country. But also, you know, the 20% off VAT of hospitality to allow us all to sort of maybe have a bit more of a good time over the summer, well, that was only reversing what Labour came in to do in the first place. And then when you hear about people that come into the country illegally, which I think you just acknowledged, are getting this card and this freebie pass, that is how is that fair? Who does that speak to as a Labour Party? Who do they stand up for? Whose priorities are they looking after? It doesn't feel like us.
But, come on, Charlie. I think you know, and I think Kane just sort of essentially spelled out himself. I doubt that this is a Labour Party policy or something that the Labour Party has rolled out.
But this is the problem. You've got weak ministers, no offence, but you've got weak, actually, total offence. They are weak ministers. They don't look into this stuff.
Mahmood.
Weak, completely weak. I'm sorry, all of them are weak because they are not doing the stuff that the British people are asking them to do, that the British people are screaming out for them to do. And looking into this sort of thing, they should be going into the Home Office and saying, right, what are we spending money on?
Yeah.
What can we get rid of? And what is this farce that we're doing, giving people, migrants, day trips out and whatnot? They're not doing that. They don't care, quite frankly. They don't care.
No,
they don't care.
This is typical reform stuff, isn't it?
It's not.
Looking for
just
easy.
a patriot, just being a patriot.
No. Let me just say that ministers should not be spending their time looking line by line through budget items like this that no doubt doesn't look good.
That's precisely what they should be doing.
They should be focusing on every single blockage to stopping the boats, to scaling up the use of detention centres, to removing the barriers to be able to forcibly remove asylum seekers who have failed their claim to get them out of this country. Those are difficult, knotty, legalistic problems that ministers should be focusing on, rather than this showmanship politics of, let's stop them going to Thorpe Park. I know it makes for a good headline. That's typical reform, but it's not what Labour ministers should be focusing on.
OK, so should you accept the point, then, that Labour ministers can't trust civil servants to do their job, or to do the job that they're meant to be doing?
No. And I don't think by the way,
what they can, then?
I don't think
so
that
we should trust the civil servants who are doing this stuff, then? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think that the Home Office is also captured by lefty ideologues.
Well, I don't know anyone who was right-wing who would allow this to happen, I can assure you now.
Well, I suspect it was set up by the Tories.
I mean, probably, but I'm not saying they're right-wing either. They're definitely not.
And therein lies the problem. However, I don't think it's a matter of not trusting what the civil service are doing. It's just that many things in this country, right? You look back at it and you think, I can see how, with the best will in the world and with good intentions, that this policy became part of the default, part of the business as usual way of doing things.
And get stuck in the system, good as you say. By people who are the be kind left, who, let's give them a day out, let's give them this. This is the problem. You've got these people running the country.
But I don't think that is I don't think it's an awful thing to have people who want to show kindness to people in this country.
Well, show kindness to the British people. I'd like them to show kindness to the British people, because that's who they're actually working for. They're not working for the migrants who are coming over here. They're not working for the UN. They're not working for the European Union. They're working for the British people. And the sooner they realise that, the better this country will be.
I agree, but even the Keir Starmer government, if you recall, just before the summer, had announced a bunch of new cuts to attractions and various places you can spend your summer. So,
I don't think they should have been doing that either, quite frankly. I'd rather them save the money and actually lower people's taxes so they can choose what to spend their money on. That's the point.
Well, just to move this on a little bit, because the government will say that they have cut the number of people coming over the country. Those numbers are down compared to last year. There was a piece on the news last night that showed the French authorities finally intercepting, it seemed, a dinghy that was set to depart from Calais to France. So the people that might be coming over might be genuine asylum seekers and refugees, and some of them, I've no doubt, actually would be. But the majority, I'm not convinced by. That's my personal view. So if you are genuinely seeking refuge and coming into the UK and you're processed properly and it is determined that actually you are a genuine asylum seeker, just to help them on their way, is this not just a way of integrating them into the society? I mean, we talk about integration all the time. We want people from wherever country they've come from to enjoy Britain and to take part in British culture. So what's the harm in a day out to a museum?
If these were limited numbers, if there was a very small number of refugees who were genuinely persecuted, people from Ukraine and other places like that, were genuinely war-torn country who we've welcomed into this country because they share the same beliefs as us, they share the same values, they want to, at some point, return to their country, a lot of these people who are coming over don't want to return to their country. Quite frankly, they're looking to start a new life in this country. Now, the problem is that you've got people in this country who can't get on, who for many different reasons want to get on but are being stifled by higher taxes, low wages and huge soaring house prices. Now, if we were able to actually look after our own people instead of actually giving out freebies to other people, we'd be in a much better position. But the problem is you've got a situation now where a lot of these people who are coming over are dangerous. We don't know who they are. And now it looks like we are kicking the British people in the face and saying, oh, don't worry about all of that. We're going to give them some free stuff, and that will integrate them back into society. That will, you know, going to Kew Garden, we'll see the wonderful botanical, you know, brilliant stuff of this country, and that will ensure that they don't go out and rape and kill and harm people. You know, that's just rubbish. It's not going to happen.
You know what I find also quite interesting about this story is that there are suggestions in the story, and it's not really spelled out what the relationship is, but there's only 21 attractions that we're talking about here. It's a very... Come off it. It's a very small number. And in one of them, in Bath...
Hold on, I imagine someone's gone to 21 attractions. If they went to 22, 25, 30, 100 attractions, this would be even worse, a statistic.
Well, but the point I was about to make is that some of these... So, in Bath, the city's Roman baths, it says here, are free for migrants under its sanctuary programme. Now, I'd imagine that is Bath's sanctuary programme, or indeed the Roman baths, I don't know, as an organisation. Not necessarily central government saying these are the 21 attractions that we've singled out to have to cut their fares for migrants or whatever. So actually, if certain venues want to take that move and they feel that within their organisation they have the money, I'm sure it all comes from central government.
It's
anyway,
a home office, because you get given a home office card to attend some of these. Yeah, but I don't imagine that the Botanic Gardens gets the card. I think they get full whack paid by the government. It's just, you know, if you get the tap on the card, so the migrant will get in for 80p if it's one of these attractions, but then that will be reimbursed by central government. So we are funding people's lifestyle that come into this country illegally. But the broader point, I just want to move it on because I don't want to get into the weeds about individual attractions, is that okay, you've got people coming over into this country that are genuinely seeking refuge, that are genuinely fleeing persecution, apparently. But yet, upon arrival, not only do you get this discount card, you get a leaflet and a pamphlet that says, don't rape our women. Now, that is shocking, isn't it, Kai? I mean, that is indefensible, I would have thought. And I say this as someone who, you know, as a former special advisor, turned commentator, some might say broadcaster, some might say the home of common sense. You know, I've been wheeled out many times to defend, people who might have taken part in, gambling on the day of the general election, or might not have turned up to D-Day commemorations and saying, well, the Prime Minister's diary is very full and it's all a bit of a mess. It's indefensible positions. But never could I imagine in my wildest dreams having to be wheeled out as a government minister or being advising a government minister to say, you know what, a Home Office, the department that is there to protect us now as individuals and our borders, it's perfectly fine to produce a leaflet to hand to men that come over into our country to say, by the way, don't rape our women.
To the contrary, Charlie, in your former life as an advisor, I can well see how you might sanction making something like this. And I'll tell you why. Because I think government, and all parties really, understand that the British people are sick and tired of the current asylum system as it stands, the seemingly complete loss of control over migration that every government of every flavour has had for the last decade. And so they want government to pull out all the stops and to ensure that British people are safe in their own homes. But it's an acknowledgement.
By creating a poster.
This comes at a time... Well, why not?
I tell you what they can do.
Why not do this?
Leave the ECHR, ensure that we can deport migrants, actually do the thing that is necessary.
But so your position is we have a real issue with crime committed by migrants, presumably, and this is affecting British people, that women and girls are at risk. And so why, if one of your arguments, as I am sure it is is this is because some of the people coming over are from cultures and traditions that are alien to ours.
Yep.
Then why not distribute this pamphlet? If it can stop one rape or one sexual assault, is it a bad thing?
Because it's never a bad thing to stop that. However, we shouldn't even be put in this position. The government shouldn't even be considering this, because what they should be doing is deporting people. It's getting rid of these people. And but what I will say is this is, on the left, you guys will always say is, oh, they're not all bad, they're not all rapists. So why do they need a pamphlet, a poster, to say don't rape and sexually abuse and become paedophiles in this country? It is insane what is going on in this country. It is insane.
You know exactly why. Because just like British people...
I know, because these people do not subscribe to Western cultures and ways of life, and they should not be in this country. They do not subscribe to our values. They never will. Because they don't believe it.
And that's why I think a lot of people who get in touch to say we do now just need to pull up the drawbridge and actually not accept people from those cultures or from countries that have those cultures. That will stop rape. You don't need the Home Office to produce a pamphlet.
Exactly.
I've got to leave it there. I've got to pull up the drawbridge on that debate.
Common sense.
I'm afraid. But you did very well to stall and procrastinate during that, Carl, I have to say, getting into the weeds of certain attractions without addressing necessarily the full content. But that's a very skilled political acumen that most people have. But huge thanks to Karen Blackwell and Kai Wilshaw, former Labour advisor and great political commentator. Thank you very much for joining me. Let me know what you think about that conversation. 0344 499 1000. We'll be getting all your calls and texts read out after this break.
Some member of the public, they said, if you were Andy Burnham, what would be the first thing that you would sort out in the UK? And I was thinking of what would be the popular consensus, not the political consensus, because I don't think the public are as concerned about rough sleeping as they are about potholes. Why doesn't he sort out the potholes and send a message to people, we're actually going to improve the quality of life in the United Kingdom? And
but
so
potholes don't matter as much as people. I mean, you can't be saying that.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning to you. This is Charlie Rowley here at the home of Common Sense for Talk. What a fantastic debate that was between my two fantastic guests, Kai Wilshaw and Kane Blackwell. Let me know what you think about that. 0344 499 1000. But taking another huge handbrake turn, this is what we've got next.
90 minutes in 90 seconds. From the Sun.
Yes, we're talking all things sport with football writer for the Sun newspaper, Tom Barkley, who joins me now. I'm delighted to say down the line. Hi, Tom.
Hey Charlie, how you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Even better after my night last night. I was at Arsenal. I'm a big Arsenal fan. Season ticket holder with my dad. No one's perfect, I know, before you all come screaming in. And it was a brilliant start to their campaign after 22 years of missing out on the league and winning it last year. But I didn't realise that Coventry had been through a bit of a mill. So historic day for them too yesterday.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's been a quarter of a century since they've last been in the Premier League. Most of us of a certain age sort of remember growing up watching Coventry in the Premier League. It's been such a long journey back, so a special moment for them. But I think an ominous moment for Arsenal's title rivals last night. They obviously got over the line last season, won the title, first time in 22 years, but they did it a lot of the time playing quite a defensive football at times, set pieces, but the ominous thing for other teams right now...
Be careful now, be careful.
the ominous aspect from last night, and particularly in the Community Shield against Man City, is how much they look like they're purring at the moment. They're attacking, they're taking teams on. They look like they could be a far more entertaining and dangerous outfit in attack this season. It feels like a weight's been lifted after finally winning that title, particularly for the manager, Mikel Arteta, who sort of built this new team over 6-7 years, but got over the line, and you wonder if that might have liberated Arsenal so they can really go at it this season.
Yeah, there's a lot of strength and depth there, and consistency of the manager staying in place when Pep Guardiola for Manchester City is obviously gone. But the challenge for Arteta, I suppose, is keeping all the players that he's got happy. Will they all get game time? Will they get first pick? It's a challenge for him, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But I suppose when you're at a club where you're winning titles, you're going deep in the Champions League. Obviously, they came so close to winning it last season. You'd imagine they'd be amongst the favourites this season. I think players are probably more accommodating at waiting their turn with so many fixtures. I think Arsenal's squad is just unbelievable. They obviously signed Ezri Konsa, who got unveiled last night, who was fantastic for England at the World Cup. He's a really savvy signing. I mean, the sheer volume of centre-backs, even with William Saliba injured at the moment from Arsenal, is frightening. And Christos Solis, the left winger, who probably went a little bit under the radar this summer when he effectively replaced Leandro Trossard. He took to the Premier League like a duck to water. It's amazing the transformation he's had. He was at Norwich early in his career and made very little to no impact at all. But he looks like a really canny signing too. So if Arsenal can get anyone else in, or even if they don't, they look like the team to beat.
Yeah, well, he was brilliant last night, but I'll park the Arsenal love in there. I'm totally biased in this regard. And what else have we got coming up today? The Premier League obviously kicks off the rest of the league. What are the matches to look out for?
Yeah, first Saturday of the Premier League, the 12:30 kickoff pitches another Premier League beast in Man United going away to a newly promoted side in Hull. I think a lot of people will presume that Hull won't stand much of a chance in this game, but they are at home. Man United it's an interesting season for them because Michael Carrick, who came in initially as a caretaker last season, did an unbelievable job turning things around after the disaster that was Ruben Amorim, got them in the Champions League. But last season, they only had effectively one game a week because of not being in Europe. This season's going to be very different. Now they're back in the Champions League. How can he manage it? He's brought in a number of new midfielders in the form of Andre Santos from Chelsea, Yuri Tillemans from Aston Villa, and it looks like Carlos Balíba's coming in from Brighton. So Carrick yesterday talked about the team having a much better spine in midfield, but this will be the first test of this new sort of extra intense season for United going away to Hull.
I know we're a bit short for time. We've just got under a minute left. What should people be doing on a Saturday morning? What can they see that's going to sort of get their juices going in the sports world today?
Well, I mean, obviously, looking back at Arsenal's highlights last night will definitely get them going if they're of the football persuasion. The whole game, like I say, kicks off at 12:30, and then the game that I'm going to later as Tottenham Hotspur correspondent for the Sun is Brentford away. I knew you were going to look at me like that.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Well, that's it. No, that's it. Banished now from this conversation. I'm so sorry, Tom. We've got to leave it there. But enjoy that match this afternoon, and thank you so much for giving up your time this morning to talk to me. That's Tom Barkley there. Football writer for The Sun. Let me know what you think. Coming up in the next hour, we'll be going through all of the topics that we've been talking about. This is Charlie Rowley on Talk.
It is therefore my honour to declare that the duly elected leader of the Labour Party is Andy Burnham.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks so much. I believe in all of you, and I am confident we can do it. Thank you very much. I have just come from Buckingham Palace, where I have accepted His Majesty the King's invitation to form a government. I know people at home are fed up with politics. I hear you, and I want to be honest with you. We have not been good enough, and we need to be better. We will be.
This man has no mandate whatsoever. He didn't stand on the 2024 general election manifesto. You cannot make the biggest change in British politics in 40 years without a mandate from the British people, and it will be only decent, right and proper to call a general election on that issue and to do it now.
Our fifth Prime Minister in 4 years. Blimey. And, well, look, we want him to succeed. But will this one be any different? Andy Burnham, the new head honcho, the speed this all happened, I know this is a well-trodden debate already, is actually breathtaking. 1 minute he was Mayor of Greater Manchester. What, a month and a bit ago he wasn't even an MP. The next he's holding keys to number 10 without the country ever really having a chance to scrutinise him in a prospective prime ministerial nothing at all. We really know very little.
I think Burnham has to walk a fine line. I think that's probably what's going on, because if he were to sweep into Downing Street and say, I'm going to change everything, I'm going to fix everything, I'm going to do things completely differently to Starmer, then people would say, hold on, mate, we need a general election in that case, because no one voted for that. No one voted for you to be Prime Minister. You weren't standing in the 2024 general election. We've never seen your manifesto. Who the hell are you? That's what people would be asking.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning to you on this fine Saturday, the 22nd of August. I'm Charlie Rowley, sitting in for Mark Dolan here, leading Weekend Breakfast here at Talk, the home of common sense. The question we're asking the country today is, what would you do if you were the Chancellor of the Exchequer? We've got a number of stories that we'll be talking about in a second, whether it's that ballooning welfare bill. The £1 billion a day we're now being told is being spent on welfare. Are you in favour of increasing spending when it comes to foreign aid? That's a story that is doing the rounds that the Chancellor, Foreign Secretary and the Prime Minister are colluding to increase foreign aid when it's been cut by the last two previous administrations. Do you think we should be spending more on foreign aid? And what do you think about the freebies farce, as the Sun puts it, where migrants are offered £340 worth of days out at popular attractions where it would cost just little of you and I, or it would cost us £340 a quid, but for a migrant that comes into the country illegally, 30 quid. That's about 2 pints in London. Let me know your thoughts on all of those topics. 0344 499 1000. I want to know, what would you do if you were Chancellor of the Exchequer? You can text the word TALK to 87222 or follow and send us a message on X at talkTV. We've got loads of calls lined up and loads of messages that I want to read out. But first, I'm delighted to kick off the final hour of Weekend Breakfast here with the fantastic Kate Ferguson, who's the political editor of the Sunday Sun. Or the Sun on Sunday.
Sun on Sunday. Thanks for having me. Thanks for coming in.
Let's start with that freebies faster if we can, because it's in the Sun newspaper, and this is the story that where a report was sort of carried out taking 21 attractions that, you know, your parent might be going to. They want to take their kid out for the 6 weeks of school holidays. 21 of those attractions, per person, it would have cost you 340 quid over the summer holidays. If you are a migrant in the UK and you were given a specific Home Office card that allows you access into certain venues, the total cost for them would have been 30 quid. I mean, it screams of two-tier Britain, doesn't it?
Yes, I mean, like, I think a lot of my readers, a lot of your listeners and viewers will just think this is very unfair. I mean, you don't have to go to many attractions in the UK to realise how eye-wateringly expensive they've become. A lot of them are 30 quid per ticket or so. And so the idea that so many basically give those tickets away for free as part of sanctuary schemes, or if you've got a specific Home Office migrant card, I think will cause real anger and frustration among much of the British public, partly because it's a real treat to go to these things, and they're very expensive, particularly once you start factoring in maybe both parents, multiple kids, maybe one of your kids is taking a friend. And it's all about fairness, really. So I think British people are generous. They also, I think, on the whole, back different discounted tickets. If you're a student, if you're an OAP, we're used to just some people paying full price. But I just think the absolute gulf will be seen as really so unfair.
I think the word that you used, fairness, I think is just, strikes a chord with everybody, because I don't think, people in the UK, we are generous and we don't mind whether it's people on benefits, where we see the welfare bill ballooning. But, if you fall on hard times, that's what it's there for. People are prepared to pay into a system if you genuinely need to take out of it for a short period of time to get you back on your feet and be able to then make the contribution that you should be able to make to society. And, if you are a genuine asylum seeker or a genuine refugee that has come into the country, and we talk about integration a lot on this station, and we want people to integrate, and this could be a way of making sure that people are seeing some of the best of Britain and through these attractions. But it's when you then have the Prime Minister saying, right, I'm going to help you out over the summer holidays, I'm going to give a little bit of a support package for people over the summer holidays for UK citizens, but for people that are coming across the channel, you get your hotel accommodation, or you get moved into a HMO, and you now get attractions at mega discounted prices. You get medical checks. Well, it just seems as though that the government doesn't quite get its priorities right with the British people.
Yes, I mean, look, I think the reality is probably very few migrants are necessarily going around the botanical gardens of Kew, but also I suspect quite lots of families won't be going around that attraction either, because it's so expensive. I mean, the idea that people can afford to take, I don't know, a family of 5 at nearly 100 quid to go and see this stuff is really for the birds for a lot of the country, a lot of people. So I think it is always that thing about the social contract and fairness. So if they want to give these heavily discounted rates to some people all year round, how about a few days of the year where you give those same heavily discounted rates to all people? I don't know, maybe you need to think about, you just need to think about how it looks when people are walking by these attractions with their kids, knowing they can never go in because it's too expensive, cost of living sky high, stagnant living standards for over 20 years, for about 20 years now. So just be aware of that, I think. So I think this is a story that will certainly provoke a lot of anger.
Well, there's some nice ideas in there, if you don't mind me saying. But
Thanks so much.
Ones that you come back and give us more. But it's certainly ideas that I'm sure the Chancellor is listening, and the Prime Minister is listening. And of course,
John Healey, of course he is.
And he's got a budget to deliver in the autumn, and Parliament's coming back just next week. So all of these conversations will be taking place. How can we get public spending under control? What should we be doing about the benefits bill, for example? So yes, there are ways in which you can help the public, whether it's through those kinds of attractions that you're talking about. But £1 billion a day, according to the Mail, a staggering sum being spent on benefits. Now, politicians talk about cutting welfare to spend on defence, but people just want to get the welfare bill down. I mean, I was here earlier on when we had the head-to-head debate, and Kai Wilshaw, who's a former Labour advisor, reassured me, although tried to anyway, that the benefits bill will come down. He thinks Labour will get a grip of it. But they, under Keir Starmer, to be fair to Keir and Rachel Reeves, they tried to cut £5 billion off the welfare bill, but Labour backbenchers didn't have it. I mean, can they get it under control?
I mean, I'm not really a betting woman, but I would bet against it. I mean, look, so what have we got facing Andy Burnham when the summer holidays finishes and they all come back to Parliament? Well, he's got this budget in October, end of October, and that's going to be really a defining budget. His first one as PM. It will define the second half of Labour's time in power in this current term. So what's facing him? We had these nightmare figures earlier in the week say that our borrowing is sky high and higher than we're expecting. So he's got very little kind of money in the piggy bank, as it were. And those figures also laid bare just how much we're spending on benefits, which is ballooned. And the reality is that they haven't been able to get it under control. So you're right, Keir Starmer, Rachel Reeves comes up with a proposal not to actually cut the benefits bill, just to stop it rising, its projected rise by about $5 billion, which is actually a drop in the ocean when you look at the overall figures. But that sparked this massive backbench rebellion and really spelled the end of both of their frontbench careers. So what's Andy Burnham said? He's making some warm noises about, yes, of course we need to get the benefits bill under control. But he says we don't want arbitrary cuts. So that goes to tell us that he's probably not going to cut the headline rates of benefits for anyone. What everyone wants to do is they're chasing after this sort of golden fleece of being able to get people back into work, tackle this big youth unemployment problem, the NEETs crisis. And there has been quite a lot of work behind the scenes on that. But the reality is those numbers are rising. Each time we get new official figures, we're finding out more under 24-year-olds aren't in employment, education or training. And so I think we will probably see Andy Burnham make lots of warm noises. We'll probably see some money go into training these people, reaching out to them, more money into job centres, whatever. But I just do not see a world in which this Labour government is willing to actually go in and cut the benefit. I just don't see it.
And I think, look, you're absolutely right, because there's no doubt Andy Burnham is a better communicator than Keir Starmer. He seems to have that sort of, human element touch.
Yes, he speaks human, which is always helpful.
But you're absolutely right. He's and just in terms of a communications plan, he seems to have flooded the press. He hasn't had scrutiny of. Well, he didn't have scrutiny of a leadership campaign. He hasn't faced a scrutiny of Parliament. So he's got 6 weeks over summer to basically announce himself to the public, get them to be on side. And he's announced some things that would have helped people, but they're sort of the low-hanging fruit. Whether it's just capping bus fares at £2, but I think they're already capped at £3. So not a huge a difference. Taking the 20% off hospitality is something that went up under Keir and Rachel. So it's just a sort of a reverse fare. Telling us not to light a barbecue during a heatwave, I mean, I thought that might have been a bit much.
I know what you mean, but I actually really hate those disposable barbecues, which I think are very good at setting grass on fire and pretty rubbish at barbecuing sausages, in my experience.
But we don't need a national alert to tell us that.
We probably don't need a national alert to tell us that. I think that's fair.
But you're absolutely right. But the challenge that so he's done well at me being sort of the low-hanging fruit, but there's some big challenges. And, I was just writing it down as you're saying, the NEETs and people not in employment, education or training. He's talked about solving homelessness over Christmas and beyond. He's talked about social care, something that's obviously really important to him because of his dad. And lots of people will know that we need to solve social care. But these are, big-ticket items, along with stopping the migrant boat crisis, getting to grips with the prison release scheme. How do we manage that with the story around PC Harper and his convicted criminals being released? He's got big-ticket items, along with the economy, which we don't quite know about how he's going to deal with it, whether it's just warm words or whether it just means more spending, which means, actually, those warm words won't be felt very well by the public, I should imagine.
Yes, exactly. I mean, if you're capping bus fares but then going to hike your taxes, that is not going to go down very well with the public at all. You're totally right. I think Andy Burnham's actually done a really good job this summer at announcing himself. He's been allowed to announce himself because Reform have been pretty much off the pitch because of that Clapton by-election own goal. And I've been surprised that the Tories have failed to do more, to be honest. So I think Andy Burnham's been given a lot of free roaming space on the pitch because his attackers are just nowhere to be seen. And he's done a good job with it. But the reality, what's coming down the line? Well, he has talked about wanting to solve these big problems, social care, something that lots of prime ministers have said they have an ambition to try and tackle, but have quickly ditched in the face of kind of it's too complicated folder. So, ending homelessness, he's had this new target of giving everyone a bed by the end of the year. Now, that's a very laudable ambition. However, to really tackle rough sleeping, you need to be tackling the addiction issues behind it, and that is much, much trickier than giving everybody a sort of bed for the night. But the reality, I think, for your listeners is going to be, OK, well, if you do want to solve these things, or you do want to start tackling these big social issues, who's going to pay for it? How are we going to pay for it? And it does increasingly look like there's no money in the piggy bank and that we're going to have or that he will turn to tax rises this autumn. And I think that is looking increasingly likely as we see these very gloomy economic figures emerge.
And do you think, just very finally, because I'm a bit short on time, if you increase taxes when you said previously, you know, as the former Chancellor said she wasn't going to increase taxes, Rachel Reeves, but she had to, or did, 2 years in a row, does it rule out an early general election, do you think, if he increases taxes?
I think that everybody will be talking about this early general election for the next, you know, few months, 6 months, year. And I do think that when we go to Labour Party conference in September, October, or September it will be, that it will be quite jubilant. Labour MPs are all quite happy with Andy Burnham, and I think that will reignite this chatter that there could be an early general election. I personally have never thought there would. I just don't think there'll be one. I don't think Andy Burnham wants to be that unpopular with his own MPs because a bunch of them will lose their seats. I don't see the point of the gamble if it's just to give you another couple of years. So I don't think he will, and I think tax rises makes it less likely. But I do think the speculation will continue.
Well, there we go.
He'll never be more popular than he is now, you know. It's only downhill from here, really.
Exactly, that's the time. So, you know, making good ground in this summer, you know, let's see. It's will certainly keep us talking, certainly will keep us talking here at Talk. Kate Ferguson, political editor of The Sun on Sunday, thank you so much for joining me on this Saturday morning. We'll come to your calls and texts in a minute, but I'm just going to bring you some breaking news that's popped up on my screen, that multiple people have died following a collision involving a police vehicle and a car in Teesside. Cleveland police say that the crash happened in the early hours of Saturday on the A66 at South Bank near Middlesbrough. The collision involved a police vehicle and a Volkswagen. Police have confirmed there have been multiple fatalities, with further details expected as the investigation continues. So sad news coming out from Teesside near Middlesbrough. Multiple people have died following a collision involving a police car and another vehicle in Teesside. We'll keep you updated as we get it. But let me know what you think about all the conversations we've had so far. Let me know what you think about that conversation with a brilliant political editor at The Sun on Sunday, Kate Ferguson. 0344 499 1000. We'll get to all of your calls and texts just after this break.
I don't ever see either of those. I mean, that interview from 6 months ago, he said, and what the people in that country have done to me. You basically called the royal family racist. You basically slagged off this entire country, and you disappeared off, took $100 million and have grifted ever since. And now you're back here because being faintly associated with the royalty, however tarnished that might be, is going to finance you and your family's lifestyle. To me, that's hypocrisy at its worst.
Yeah, absolutely, but that's never really worried them in the past. I mean, this is just another business opportunity. Things haven't worked out in the States.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Talk Breakfast with me, Charlie Rowley, sitting in for the beautiful, brilliant Mark Dolan at the Home of Common Sense. All your calls and texts have been coming in. We've got this from Christine. Says, morning, Charlie. Lovely to see you again. Well, lovely to have you, Christine, with us. She says, foreign aid money does not go to help the ones it should. It goes into the corrupt government's pockets. I think a lot of people would agree with that. You're right. Where we are sending money, it should be going on to the causes that we are told that it's going into, not the pockets of those leaders from more corrupt countries. We've got a message from Rob, who was responding to a call that we had earlier on in the show from a lovely lady called Jackie, who says Jackie is completely right about MPs' pay linked to growth and meeting budgets. This should apply across all parties, whether in government or not, and this would stop parties from initiating daft investment plans and should be applied retrospectively so that all parliaments are accountable for previous and future decisions. So that was Jackie saying, look, if we don't get growth in our country, if we don't deliver on the things that our parliamentarians and our politicians say that they're going to deliver on, then they should have a pay cut. That if they don't deliver on their priorities, that they shouldn't see their pay rises going up, their pay packets going up, when the rest of us have to suffer. Good point, Rob. From Alex in Belfast. Good morning, Alex. The government needs to calculate every penny immigrants, I think that should say, cost us, and reduce income tax by that amount across the working. He thinks that money could be saved on admin, on channel pickups, those channel crossings, legal costs, no doubt of those legal crossings, prison costs, no doubt related to those illegal crossings, hotels, houses of multiple occupation, on food that we provide to these people, healthcare access, civil service costs, and foreign aid. Absolutely, not a penny more should be going to these people. That's from Alex in Belfast. You're absolutely right. We've also got a few voice notes when we've been asking the question this morning. What would you do if you were Chancellor of the Exchequer? Well, this is Judy.
Hello, it's Judy from Altos, West Yorkshire. What I would do if I were Chancellor, I would cut the Houses of Parliament down to half. We don't need 600 not people to run this little country. America only has 350 or something like that. All the quangos, I would cut them all back by half and more. That would save us billions. Overseas aid, that's another one. I would stop it all together, and I would just give help in emergencies, like when there are floods or famine or something like that. I would have all the NHS hospitals audited and see where savings can be made. There we go, billions for tax cuts for everybody. And I would also sort the benefits system out. Thank you.
Tax cuts for everybody from Judy. Music to the ears, I think, of a lot of people, myself included. That was Judy. What does Mike think?
Morning, Charlie. Mike in Whitney here. A country doesn't have to finance itself by taxing its people. You won't find an oil-rich country around the world moaning and groaning like us. Yeah, if we scrap net zero, pumped gas and oil, like Norway, it's the same field they pump out, we could be a rich country like Norway. In 1970, Norway and the UK started drilling in the North Sea at the same time. 56 years later, Norway is one of the richest countries in the world, owns all its own infrastructure. The UK, we can't pay the interest on our debt. And that is purely because of politicians and government. Norway has a good government, which mantra is we look after our people's health, wealth and happiness. The UK, we don't have one, do we? Don't have a mantra. What's our mantra? Tax the hell out of you, make you miserable, and you can't get a doctor's appointment. That's it.
Mike, I think a lot of people would agree with you on that. We are taxed far too high, and we should be drilling more in the North Sea. We should be using every resource that we have within our own country. We shouldn't be importing oil and gas at the cost to tunes of millions of pounds that puts on more pressure on UK household bills. You're absolutely right. I think a lot of people, again, would agree with you, Mike. But we've got Graham from Colchester on the line. Good morning, Graham.
Good morning, Charlie. Great show, by the way.
Thank you very much. Thank you for spending your Saturday morning with me. What would you like to say?
Well, you're asking people what they would do if they were Chancellor. So my list is this. 75% of quangos would gone. 75% of the benefits would be gone, and they would have to have a face-to-face. The 10,700 foreign prisoners would be deported, which I worked out would save us 2.7 billion for a 5-year sentence. All foreign aid would be cut back to $1 billion so we could keep our seat on the UN. Politicians' pay would be frozen for 15 years. Public sector slashed, and the gold-plated pensions they have would be scrapped, and they'd be brought more into line with the private sector. All illegal immigrants would be deported. Net zero would be scrapped in its entirety. Drilling in the North Sea and fracking would be started. Lots of mini nuclear stations like they've got in South Korea would be built. Number 10 North would be scrapped. All mayors would be scrapped because that's a bureaucracy we don't need. The police and crime commissioners would also be scrapped, so the police forces take charge of themselves. And lastly, the House of Lords to be cut from the 835 members down to 201. So I think that would probably help solve the financial crisis we've got in this country.
Graham, I think that would go some way to helping the crisis that we've got in this country. You've obviously thought about that long and hard and come up with a whole list there of things that this country should be doing to get our spending down. I mean, I just want to talk about the MPs' pay, because a few people have been getting in touch about this, and I didn't really think, I mean, call me, you know, part of the Metropolitan Elite, I don't know, I didn't think that it was still such an issue on people's minds. But front page of The Guardian this morning, not a paper, I have to say, that I'm used to reading, but, you know, I go through as many publications as I possibly can. The expose that our politicians, MPs, are still taking thousands of pounds of freebies, like concerts. I mean, how does that make you feel when the rest of us are struggling?
Oh, it just infuriates me. I mean, most of them in the Houses of Parliament are only in it to line their own pockets, and a lot of people have felt that for many decades, actually. So, you know, it's about time it stops. I mean, if they behaved like that in the private sector, they'd be out on their ear. They'd be given a P45 and shown the door.
And I don't think people, I mean, my view is I don't think people would mind, really, if you get sort of, you know, whether in the public sector or the private sector, if you get a few perks to the job, you know, you might get free concert tickets, you might have to do a bit of engagement with, you know, a restaurant chain, and you get up, you know, you get some nice free meals or whatever. But that's only when things are going well. You know, when MPs and politicians, when governments are delivering for us, then I don't think people would mind too much if they're seen at the World Cup or whatever. But I think the problem lies when all of, you know, going back to the list that you announced, that you know, all the things that we could do to make this country better, when it seems to me that we're doing the complete opposite and going in the complete opposite direction, where, you know, we're not deporting foreign criminals, where we've got more people coming across in small boats, where the welfare bill is ballooning, not being cut, where we're not spending on welfare. All of these things are going in the other direction to the list that you just announced, and yet we're still seeing MPs get the pay rises, that the House of Lords is, as you said, overinflated, and we've got these freebies going on. So my question to you, Graham, is, because you've thought about it long and hard, obviously, why is it then, do you think, that whether it's this government, whether it's Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves, or whether it's successive governments, even under the Tories, why have they been going in the opposite direction to the list that you just announced?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
That's the million-dollar question. Why are they going in completely the opposite direction when they can see and hear from the general public at large that they're going in the wrong direction, and yet they still take no notice?
I mean, when it comes to another story that we've been talking about over the course of the week and in the summer, is sort of the prison release, early prison release schemes. Now, my view is very clear that I don't think we should be releasing anyone from prison early. You know, there was a plan in place during COVID, I remember it well. If you had to move prisoners out because there was a mass outbreak within a particular prison, you would rehouse those prisoners in either Nightingale-style prisons or you would accommodate, whether it's those disused army barracks that are obviously being used to house migrants, or you would take over or be able to use a disused sort of old holiday camp, you know, Butlins, Havens, Pontings, you know, and others are available. Why are politicians not able to think creatively to solve these problems? Why is it always just, you know, the doom loop of, oh, we've got no choice, we've just got to release prisoners?
I honestly couldn't answer that one. They're just a law unto themselves sometimes, I think. It does. It just baffles me why they don't listen and why they go in the opposite direction. I did work out something, though. The 10,700 foreign prisoners that we've got, if you took that, it costs £51,000 a year to keep them behind bars. Now, you take that the average sentence they've got is 5 years. For those 10,700 prisoners, it's costing the British taxpayer £2.7 billion just to keep them there.
Good Lord.
That's equivalent to 11,300 police officers.
Which we could do on our streets, if you ask me. Graham from Colchester, thank you so much. Very thoughtful call there and brilliant stuff. Let me know what you think about that. We've also got Vernon from Staffordshire. Hi, Vernon.
Charlie, good morning to you. How are you, sir?
Good morning. I'm very well. All the better for you for joining me this morning.
Loving your show. Thank you.
Thank
very
you.
Good, very articulate.
What do you? Thank you very much. What do you think about some of the topics we've been talking about? We've been talking about the ballooning welfare bill. We've been talking about freebies to migrants that come across in the country. We've been talking about a potential increase in foreign aid.
I'm a bit of a know-it-all, Charles. I'm not very popular, I'm afraid. Quite controversial, but an entrepreneur. Know how the business functions. I know how to make money. It's very simple, Charles. If you are spending more money than is incoming, you are bankrupt. The UK currently is bankrupt. The outgoings are greater than the incomings. The simple solution to me is that, first of all, sorry, I'm not a racist, but I'm a patriot. The long and the short of it is, foreigners should not be getting benefits in this country. Very simple. Secondly, I'd be in a situation where foreign prisoners would be sent home, wherever home is, regardless. I wouldn't have any illegal immigration. For me, the Nightingale hospitals were set up within 5 minutes. It would have an immigration centre, holding centre set up somewhere, wherever, preferably not on the island of England, on a separate island that was fully policed. People would be cared for properly. They would be fed, but they would be kept there until their immigration status was approved. And if the immigration status was approved, they'd come into the country. If it wasn't, they wouldn't. My biggest gripe. They would end benefits, give people 6 months' notice. When my parents were broke, if they needed money, they got a second job. And if they were broke, they get a third job. As far as I'm concerned, is that people that suffer with stress, I'm stressful, Charlie. Your team Arsenal just taken my centre back, £51 million, only because they can. So that's, for me, I'm a bit jovial about stress. The long and the short of it is, a great cure for stress is to get a job, meet people, talk to people, go to work. We are a lazy nation, Charlie. Life is too easy for too many people. And it isn't the government's job to pay for everything.
No, and I think we're still... I totally agree, and I think we're still stuck in that sort of post-COVID phase where people who, wanted to... had to work from home, first of all, during COVID, but then that's been allowed to sort of creep into the everyday sort of setting where people are... or feel as though actually working from home, they're more productive, but feel it's more comfortable for them. But if you don't have the interaction as you would with someone else in the workplace, if you don't turn up somewhere, where you might be wearing a suit and tie for work, where you have to present yourself, where you have to sort of, put into compartments, is what I'm trying to say, your work life, your personal life, your social life, it all blends into one. Then that's when people become slightly more isolated, when they have got too much time on their hands, where they're too comfortable at home, and their work feels invasive. That's when people end up more stressed, feeling like they've got anxiety, and then not going to work and then ending up on benefits.
Charlie, effort equals reward. You do not get rewarded without the effort. It's very simple. We're a lazy nation. We don't want to work. We feel the world owes us a living. For me, when I return to the UK, I will rise at 4 in the morning. I will leave at 5. My usual working day ends about 7 p.m. Welcome to the world of an entrepreneur. The reality of it is, if you work, you get the rewards. If you don't work, For me, you starve.
Yeah.
Not my problem. Get a job.
There's a huge gulf between people that work in the public sector, I think, and the civil servants in some of our government departments, and people like you, Vernon, people that are entrepreneurs that get up, that work every hour God sends to be creative, to invest, to make a living, and to be successful. If only we had more people like you, Vernon, in government. Thanks so much for that call. Let me know what you think. We've got plenty of calls and messages lit up on my counter here, but I want to hear from you. 0344 499 1000. This is Charlie Rowley. This is Weekend Breakfast. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh, welcome back to the home of common sense. This is Talk with me, Charlie Rowley, in for Mark Tonian at Weekend Breakfast. All your calls and texts have been coming in. We're not going to get through all of them, I'm afraid, in the last 25 minutes because we've had so many brilliant conversations and guests this afternoon. Talking about a number of topics that are across our national newspapers, including freebies for migrants that are coming to the country, being able to attend 21 attractions for a cost of about £30, where it would cost the likes of you and I about 340 quid. We've also been talking about the ballooning benefits bill and the potential increase in foreign aid. There is a question as to whether spending more on foreign aid in other parts of the world will prevent people coming into our country, but that remains to be seen. Well, let's talk now to Michelle Erie, if I've got that right, who is Free Speech Shell. I beg your pardon, that's her headline. Lovely to see you, Free Speech Shell.
Hello, thank you for having me on today.
Not at all. You just heard what I was saying there about the topics that we've been talking about, one of which was the freebies that are given to migrants. Now, there is a particular event, I understand, in your part of the world, in Essex, that's taking place today, which is an anti-migrant protest. Is that right?
I would say it's an anti-illegal migrant protest. We've done quite a few of them now because we have one of the largest air bases in the UK and have done since 2023.
And go on.
I was just going to say that when you were referencing about freebies, it was actually my group that actually revealed to the public that £50,000 worth of our local council money was actually given to the migrants for things like art therapy, cricket lessons, a football team was set up. So we really have the knowledge here in Essex about what freebies they are getting.
And how does that jar with either yourself or members of your community, people that have been there for a long, long time, who are facing the cost of living crisis, for example, and they see actually, if you wanted to take your family, or if you wanted to go for a day out at one of these, London attractions or anywhere across the UK, it doesn't have to be London, but you're seeing people that have come across into this country illegally, and you're right, the protest that you've got today is more of about an illegal migration protest. It's not about anti-immigration, full stop. How does it feel when you see people getting such a heavy discount compared to what you and I would have to pay?
Well, I think it's extremely frustrating. You know, I'm a working mum. I have children. I have a mortgage to pay. It would be lovely if I could get some discounts to take them away. But not just that. You know, we've got people who maybe have had quite vulnerable upbringings. They might not have had the best start in life. Why are they not getting these same opportunities? Why are we allowing men who, in their own homelands, you know, they're taught that women are second class and that children can be abused? Why are they coming here illegally and being rewarded with things like attraction tickets? How is that integrating them into our society? It's not. It's rewarding them for breaking the law. And I think it sets a precedent to all the people in this country who are working incredibly hard. They're finding it difficult. Even people who are middle class are finding it difficult to pay their bills, pay their council tax, and they're now watching all of these illegal men have all of these additional benefits. And even as well for legal migrants, people who have paid to come to our country, they don't get rewarded in this way.
Well, you talked about middle classes. The Prime Minister earlier on over the summer said that actually in terms of having to redistribute, for want of a better word, people that come into the country legally, to get them out of hotels, to get them out of HMOs, they can go to middle class areas. So they will be distributed across the country, which I don't think was music to the ears of many people from those particular areas, but I think probably would be music to the ears of people that want to come into the country just to get that benefit on top of all the others that they seem to get in the UK. That's why people, when people ask the question, why don't they settle in France? Why can't they stay in Germany? Because they've travelled across Europe to get to the UK. It's because we have so much, I think, in their minds to offer. I just want to ask you very briefly, though, before I let you go, just because we're very short for time. Your event, I'm sure, was much in the planning stages before the Home Office revealed its pamphlets that it is now giving to men, as you said, undocumented men that arrive on our shores, telling them not to rape women. How does that make you feel, knowing that the Home Office, the department that is supposed to protect us, the department that is there to protect our borders, to make sure that the police are doing its job to arrest and deport these foreign criminals and people that are coming into the country illegally, are just being, A, welcomed into the country, but then B, given a leaflet to say, by the way, whilst you're here, best not sexually assault someone?
Well, it's an attack on Western women. That's point blank what it is. It's an attack on women. It's an attack on children. It's also an attack on men as well now, but predominantly more women, because they are going to be the group that faces the most abuse from these men. The pamphlet itself, for me, is an insurance document. It's so the government can say, look, we warned them, we told them not to do it. They will not have any regard for that leaflet. I know, I speak with migrants in the base where I live. I know the mindset of some of those men. I know what they're thinking, why they're here. And this little document will not stop anything at all. If anything, though, it should highlight to the whole country that the government know that these men are here and they will commit these violent crimes against women and children.
Free speech, Shell. I think we put it brilliantly there. I can't add any more to that, and I think a lot of people would agree with you. Thank you so much. Sure, we've got to cut it short. We're just running behind on time, but thank you so much for joining me this morning on Talk Breakfast. We've got loads of calls that we won't be able to get through, and texts that I'll hopefully be able to read out. But after the break, the wonderful Steve Denyer, back by popular demand, I understand, will be joining me here at the home of Common Sense, me with Charlie Rowley on Weekend Breakfast. This is Talk.
You doommongers, you're just killjoys, aren't you?
That's just silly, isn't it? I'm not a doom monger. I'm a fact monger.
Yeah? Well, why can't people just enjoy the summer?
And 1,000 people are dead. And 20 people have lost their homes.
No, well, that's bad.
And
I agree with that.
now I'm going to stretch me on breaking
But your
facts.
facts. You can't say 1,000 people have died because of climate change. That's right.
Well,
you laugh
in
a condescending way. You're making yourself look ridiculous. Don't blame me.
This is not a discussion. This is just a rant.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
We're on the home straight now. This is Charlie Rowley in for Mark Dolan at the home of Common Sense here at Talk TV, and I'm delighted to be joined in this last segment by the one and only Steve Denyer of Virgin Radio, the studio next door, and good friend Steve. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's so good to be on with you.
Well,
on your own show, you're doing a fantastic job.
Well, I did say that this is something that we're all looking forward to, but then I was reminded by Dave that you're contractually obliged to be here, if I can say that. But we love you. We love you.
Thank
I
you.
love you.
We've got loads going on at Virgin Radio this week. I just wanted to update you. So Chris Evans at the moment. We put together TFI Friday was a massive show in the 90s, and we brought it back. And just over this summer period, we thought we'd give you an exclusive kind of peek at some of the stuff that hasn't made it on previous episodes. And one of the great bits of TFI Unseen, we're calling it, is Paul Heaton, who was in yesterday. He was in the Beautiful South. He was in the House Martins. He's got a new album, and it's so good. It's just as good as anything that the Beautiful South released back in the day. So you see that as part of TFI Unseen. All the episodes are on our YouTube page, Virgin Radio UK. It's us a lot having a laugh. You probably hear us down the corridor.
I do, I'm afraid.
Sometimes. Yeah. So we need to get you on one of the shows.
Oh, I'd love to. Well, you don't have to ask me twice. But what have we got this morning? What are we in for?
So every week at this time, we pick a different year. And if you're watching or listening at the moment, you think you know the year, then message in. I'm going to take you back to a year that Charlie Rowley was born.
Oh, yes.
This is because we had a chat yesterday and you said, oh, I was born in... No, I'm not going to give the year because I've done that in the past. I've ruined this segment.
Yes. Keep your calls and texts coming in. What year do you think it is?
We're going to start. Something massive happened in March this year, and it led to the downfall of a Prime Minister. Have a little look at this. We're talking the poll tax riots.
Rioters have been fighting running battles with police in central London tonight. The police now say 341 people have been arrested after a demonstration ended in violence. More than 100 were injured in pitched battles in Trafalgar Square and the West End. It had started as a peaceful mass protest against the poll tax. But then it turned ugly. Police accused a minority of around 3,000 troublemakers of mounting a ferocious and sustained attack on them. Cars were overturned and burnt. Shops were looted. Buildings set ablaze. As night drew on, the trouble spread, with police reporting sporadic violence throughout the centre of the city.
Very good. Yes, I don't remember that well, but
it's so interesting because I'm just looking at some of the WhatsApps coming through in the texts. People have got the wrong decade, let alone the year. It's a very interesting one. This is kind of on the cusp.
That's because you said it was my birthday.
Exactly.
They think I'm 10 years older.
It's all very awkward. Very awkward just looking at some of these messages. So this happened in March this year. They reckon that 200,000 people went on this, march. But some people said up to 1 million people could have been there. 300 people were arrested. I remember I was kind of in my early teens, but watching the Saturday tea time news, and that was going on. It was a really, really big thing. People were really unhappy about the community charge. It went on to be called the poll tax. We now know it as the council tax. It's become normal, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
But the whole thing back in this year was that people thought it was very unfair that a millionaire and somebody living on a council house or on a council estate would be paying the same amount of money. So it's pretty fair to say that this incident led to the downfall of Margaret Thatcher, which happened later on in this year in November. I mean, we talk about huge breaking news. She'd been in power since 1979, and this is what happened.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're leaving Downing Street for the last time after 11 and a half wonderful years, and we're very happy that we leave the United Kingdom in a very, very much better state than when we came here 11 and a half years ago. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
She did find it a very embittering experience. I think it marked the rest of her life. I don't think she ever had a happy moment after she ceased being Prime Minister.
Huge stuff, wasn't it? I think she described it as treachery with a smile on its face. And I'd certainly never... You know, I'd grown up with Margaret Thatcher being our Prime Minister throughout the whole of the 80s decade. And I'd certainly never seen her get emotional, let alone that clip. And it really brings back just seeing her face. You know, it was such a big moment.
Well, it won't surprise you. As a political geek that I am, I have seen that clip time and time again. And indeed, given that the year that we are guessing, and people are texting
very well.
in,
Very well.
People have got in touch. They have guessed the year right, but we'll read those out at the end. But this, obviously, is the year also that I was born.
Yes.
So I am a Thatcher baby.
There's actually a really good episode of The Crown. I don't know if you like The Crown. Great episode of The Crown featuring Gillian Anderson as Margaret Thatcher, and they play out Margaret Thatcher's final days and when she went to meet the Queen and what happened, what was said. It's a great kind of dramatisation of this. But
I haven't seen The Crown, but I've seen the musical of what's coming up next. I think this film.
Yes, yes. Okay, well that was nicely linked.
Thank you.
This next film, Charlie. I don't know if you've seen the film, but it made pottery cool.
Yes.
It made pottery cool. This was a movie that just kind of sprung out of nowhere.
Quite literally,
and became
yes.
the biggest film of the year. Not only did it become the biggest film of the year, but it also gave us the biggest song of the year, The Righteous Brothers, Unchained Melody. I am, of course, referring to Ghost. Should we see a bit?
Let's
Have a look. Great.
I suppose that clip was the breakfast version that we could play. It wasn't the pottery.
Heavily edited. Heavily edited. That pottery scene is very steamy, actually, even now, watching it all these years later. It's an amazing film. Patrick Swayze wasn't even supposed to be the lead. They liked his work in Dirty Dancing. The person who really made this film was Whoopi Goldberg. She became a household name. Her comedy lines and stuff absolutely made it. It's an emotional film. It pulled at our heartstrings. We loved it. We went out and bought the VHS after it came out. We bought the song from it. So Ghost is... And actually watch Ghost now. It's still it holds up as a really, really great movie.
Well, I know what I'll be doing later on.
So you've seen the musical. Is it any good?
I love the musical, actually. Yes, yeah. And it's been off for a while, but I think it's done regional tours and things.
That's it. It kind of bounces back every kind of decade, doesn't it? Can I talk about my Queen?
Oh, you can.
Here we go. So there are concert tours, and there's this concert tour, OK? So, I mean, people often say, you know, Lady Gaga or Ariana Grande or whatever are the queen of these big shows, but the world had never seen a tour like this. Madonna toured around the world on a Blonde Ambition tour, and it was the first show that kind of mixed up almost like a theatre show into a rock concert. She almost got arrested in Toronto for what you're about to see. The Vatican, the Pope said ban this tour because it was religious, it was sexy. Do you want to take a look at this?
I do.
Madonna doing Like a Virgin. You've never seen anything like this. Have a look.
Well,
there we are.
Something
That's
for breakfast.
Things up on a Saturday morning, isn't it? The really interesting thing, Charlie, is my mum and dad bought me a ticket to see that show.
Oh, yeah.
So I went to see it on the day of my 14th birthday. And Mum bought the ticket. We bought it months before we actually heard about what was in the show. And my mum's reading the Daily Mail every day going, I'm a disgraceful mother. How could I send you to see this? It's filth. I had the night of my life.
Was that the first concert you'd ever seen?
First stadium show I ever saw. And it was the 20th 4th of July in this year. And, you know, you always remember the first concert, you know, the noise, the excitement and stuff. It really was. You felt like you were watching something massive that would go down in history. And it was one of those shows, people often say that show changed everything. You know, Kylie Minogue kind of started to work a lot harder with their shows. And it was, you know, a massive high-octane show, expensive, choreographed, a bit like seeing a theatre show, but in a massive stadium.
Well, you've got a reference to it at the top of that clip. I have probably been more in the camp that Lady Gaga is amazing, more than Madonna, but she's been around for a long time. But you're absolutely right. You do remember your first concert. Do you want to know what mine was?
Go on.
Celine Dion.
Very good.
In Las Vegas.
In Vegas?
I was 16. I was 16, my sister was 18. We both finished our GCSEs, A-levels respectively. We went on holiday. I think my dad just wanted to go to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I think. My mum and my granddad did, certainly, I think. So they had a good time. And we just needed something to do in the evening. And I got to choose, as the youngster, what we went to go and see. And it was a choice, actually, between Elton John, I think Piano Man, and
the
Red Piano, and Celine Dion. I opted for Celine.
So you would have seen Celine at her absolute peak. And do you remember the noise? Nothing can prepare you for
brilliant.
the noise of the gig and the crowd. And like I say, you know, I get goosebumps thinking about being at Wembley, watching that Madonna show. Incredible stuff. And obviously Celine Dion was a great act as well. So the year we're talking about.
Yes. Well, before you make the big announcement, we've got a few people. Colin has come in to say 1981. Lindsay says 1983. That's Lindsay in Ipswich. But we've got David, we've got Michael, we've got Ray, we've got Margaret, we've got Lisa, we've got Maria, we've got another Michael, we've got Barry, and we've got Kazza, all saying a particular year. And I think it could be the winning year.
Yeah, the year was 1990.
And they'd all be right.
It's a very weird one because the 80s kind of merged into the 90s and it was a bit of a slow kind of, you know, for the 90s to find its feet. But this year, a lot happened, didn't it? What date were you born? I
was born on the... I don't want to give too much information away. People might be cloning me. But it was the 18th of April. So I was... and Mrs Thatcher resigned in November.
Exactly.
So I was born just before she resigned.
I'm going to take a guess that the #1 song when you were born, I think, was an Elton John song. I think it could be Sacrifice, Healing Hands. I think it could be that. I might be wrong. It's probably something like MC Hammer or Madonna or whatever. But
well, I'd be beside myself if it was Elton, because then if I had the opportunity to then choose between a concert, you know, and I chose Celine over Sir Elton, when that would have been the #1 when I was born. Oh, I'll have to look it up.
You'll have to Google that.
But I don't think I need to look it up. I'm sure you're right. You're never wrong. You're never wrong, Steve Denny. That was amazing.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. And that's a regular segment, isn't it, on Weekend Breakfast?
We do it every week. We sometimes pick things, you know, big things that have happened this day, back in the time, or just have a bit of fun. You know, we did the noughties last week, but it's a great little reminder to think. You know, if you think things were very sweet in the past, lots of these years have big events, breaking news stories. You know, little moments that we've grown up with. So it's always good to go back in time and you know, have a little think about what we've been through, where we've been, where we are right now. And Alex Phillips is here.
She is, and she's just going to set up, so we'll say hello to her very shortly. But it has been a great summer for concerts, hasn't it? We've had a wonderful time.
It really
Ariana
has
Grande is in town at the minute.
They reckon, we're talking on Virgin next year about next year being the year for concerts. Oasis apparently going to be doing Nebworth, a residency in Rome. They're going to be doing gigs in Manchester, Sam Fender as well. They reckon Madonna apparently is going to take over Hyde Park next year. So.
Well, there is only one headline act that I stick around for, and that is the lovely Alex Phillips, who joins me now, who's taking us through from 10 o'clock to 1.
That was a very sickly segue there. I see you've gone into like full mawkish breakfast tone.
I thought it was quite nice.
No, I love it. Thank you. It's very cute. I appreciate it.
How are you? What's coming up?
I'm okay. Well, what is coming up is Barnsley and I are going to be in the studio, and Lord knows what's going to happen, because normally on a Saturday it just sort of like has its own life and its own agenda. But there's lots of bits and bobs hanging around in the press today, so we are going to be talking about that. Also, Meghan Markle in The Gentleman. I mean, I really liked that series, and that Theo James is hot. But
Well, he is, isn't
Could be the next Bond.
I know, we should be.
Yeah.
Let's change could to should.
Should.
Because
I thought I was in the running. I thought I was in the running for that.
He's obviously not as good looking as you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
But he is a tasty entity.
Well, we haven't talked a lot about Meghan and Harry because we've been stucking into some of the other pages in the newspapers. But I know it's one that's got a lot of people exercised about them coming back, about that opportunity.